Okay. Hey guys, I don't know if you can hear me or see me. I'm just waiting for my monitors to load. This wouldn't be a live stream from me without some technical difficulties, but at least we are here at 7 p.m. UK time ready to go. So as soon as my monitor fires up, is it here? Yes. Let me know in the chat box, guys, if you can hear me okay. Thanks, Anthony Dijalbo. Thank you very much, mate. So if I have to keep looking down, it is because I'm just going to keep an eye on two things. First thing I'm going to keep an eye on is if any super chats come through. And the second thing I need to keep an eye on the monitor for is because the YouTube algorithm is very Nazi, to be honest. Basically, the YouTube algorithm blocks any comments that contain a link or swearing, and it's a really smart algorithm because it also is able to block people that try and change swear words. So for example, if you typed fark instead of fuck, the algorithm would still be able to detect that and block you. So I take heat all the time from people that send me an email why did you ban me from your channel, bro? I wasn't doing anything, blah blah blah. It ain't me, it's YouTube. They really want to I think similar to Google, they really want to just promote a clean platform. If you remember 15, 20 years ago, Google was the wild west. You could search for something and you could run into a website selling dildos or fucking instructions on how to build bombs, all kinds of stuff very easily, whereas there was a point in time where Google kind of outlawed all inappropriate adult content, and I think YouTube try and do the same thing. So I will keep an eye on the chat box just to make sure I will just keep an eye on the chat box just to make sure that people aren't getting shut out and shit. And yeah, here we go. So, couple things to get into before we... I need to stop doing that as well. I was watching the video back from last night, and I did that a lot, and it sounds really loud on the mic, so I am sorry. I'm going to stop punching my hand. It's a habit. It's a very bad habit. So, first thing that I want to get into... very sorry that every time I do this live stream... It is very amateur. It is not the crispest. It is not the best quality. We get some lag. Quite often we have problems with the stream. I promise you, you see all these other streamers out there. Nice, slick, professional, high quality streams. I will get to that, I promise. If we bring up the UFC schedule, basically when there's an event during in a week, so for example this past week, I can't do shit during that week apart from research fights, because fight research is a really time-consuming process. It takes 30 to 40 hours to research one UFC card. Then if we've got other smaller promotions on top of that, like Bellator, KSW, PFL, that's more time. And also, I do a huge... I guess it's kind of a live stream, but I do a live stream during UFC events for my elite members where I share my live betting tips with them and do alternate fight commentary. So when there is UFC events on, I basically can't do shit apart from research fights, make these videos, and just basically pump content out on my website. So when there are breaks in the UFC schedule, so for example we had a week off the week before the week after the Stockholm card. We've also got a 2-week break now before the next card, which is headlined by Moicano and Korean Zombie. When we get those breaks in the UFC schedule, I kind of set myself tasks to kind of elevate the shit that I do. So it might be learning new skills, or putting out a different type of content that's more evergreen, or it might be just updating my website or adding new features. So as you can see, we've got a 2-week break now coming up before the Korean Zombie Moicano fight. And I've got tasks set out that I need to do in that time. I need to finish off the waiting list system for my website for elite members. And I also, what else? There's something else, update a few pages and stuff, I think. And then as you can see, literally from that Korean Zombie event, it is just flat out until August. So we've got 5 events in July. And we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 events in August. But luckily there is a week's break here between August 17th and August 31st. There's a 2-week break, and thank fuck there's a 2-week break, because otherwise I wouldn't have been able to have a summer holiday and my wife would have fucking killed me. So I haven't got any work planned for this break here. I'm going to be doing some traveling. I'm going to be going to Singapore and Bali, taking the family on a bit of a holiday. And then, as you can see, as soon as I get back from Singapore and Bali, flat out another run right through until early November, going from September right through to early November. But we do have a 2-week break in November here. And we also have a 2-week break between November and December here. And obviously I'll take a bit of time off here for Christmas, spend it with the family. But the point I'm trying to make is these live streams could be improved in a big way. And I have earmarked these breaks here in November and December to really work on the quality of this live stream and take it to the next level. Now I know that seems like a long time away, but trust me, with these events coming thick and fast, I'll be very busy. And November, December will be here before we know it. So by this time next year, not only will we be millionaires, rodders, but we will also have a much better quality live stream. So just want to apologise for the shittiness of it at the moment, but we will get there. But if you're wondering why it takes me a long time to do stuff, it's just because the events come thick and fast. And as you can see, the schedule is out of control right up until the end of the year. So, before we get into prop bets, I just want to. I've just actually seen a super chat from Lewis. Thanks a lot, mate. So Lewis has said. So Lewis is one of my elite members. So I have no idea why he's giving me a super chat, but it is because he's a legend and very kind. I appreciate it, mate. So Lewis has said, at the gym, clearing my head before live betting. I'm so excited for tonight's card. It's stacked. What are your thoughts, BT Sport, going to the pay-per-view route? Yes, man, that's a good question. So obviously, if you don't live in the UK, this might not be that big of a deal to you. But the broadcaster in the UK that shows UFC events live is called BT Sport, and they have announced today that they will be doing 4 events per year that are going to the pay-per-view model. Now, if you live in the United States, where the majority of big events on, wrestling, boxing, and MMA at pay-per-view, you might be thinking, well, what the hell are you complaining for? Like, we've had to pay for pay-per-view our whole lives. The UK model's a little bit different. UK and pay-per-view have never been that much of a thing. The way that broadcastings tend to work over here is you pay a subscription for a cable sports channel, Sky Sports or BT Sport over here, and then each sports channel that you buy access to will cover a set amount of sports. So, for example, Sky Sports, which is one of the biggest sports broadcasters, will have like NBA, Barclays Premier League, golf, and then BT Sport will have other things like the Champions League, the UFC, all that kind of thing. So if you buy all access to all the sports channels, you can watch any sport you want. But every now and again, they would do pay-per-view. So, for example, big fights like McGregor Mayweather would be a pay-per-view purchase, but the price would be much lower than in the US. So it would only be about £20, which is about $25 compared to, I know you guys pay between $80 and $100. So you're probably asking why the UK is going crazy over this right now. I personally don't think it's a big deal. I am quite capitalist, though. I am quite a big believer that people should be paid fairly for their work. I think that's fair to say, and I think that there's a big feeling out there of entitlement amongst people with content creators. I think that people just want everything for free, and unfortunately, it's like, to produce really good quality content takes a lot of time, effort, work, and investment. Like, just last week alone, I spent £5,500 on camera equipment to take this YouTube channel to the next level. I will never earn £5,500 in ad revenue from YouTube. This is too small of a niche. But that gives you some kind of idea as to how difficult it is to create good quality content. And BT Sport are in exactly the same position. They've committed a big chunk of money to buying the rights to the UFC in the UK. And they need to get a return on that investment. That's just the way it is. So people want to pay their subscription for BT Sport, and pay a set fee every month and get all UFC events included, which is the way it's always been. And I get that. But the problem is, like, illegal streaming is like killing the industry. If you look at the numbers on the number of views per UFC event, like the average UFC event on BT Sport in the UK gets between 50 and 70,000 views, which is nothing. Like, it's absolutely nothing. Like, it's totally shit. Like, it's barely anything. And that's partly because it's broadcast late at night. You know, most main cards don't start until 2 or 3 a.m. in the UK. But you cannot... You're basically not an attractive sell to advertisers if your content's only pulling in 50,000 to 70,000 views. So BT Sport won't be making dick on advertising for the UFC broadcasts. They're running into money trouble with subscriptions. I think BT Sport are on the verge of bankruptcy because they piled all their money into buying the rights to Champions League. So they've got to try and recoup their investment on bringing UFC over to BT Sport somehow. And it's quite clear that they're not generating enough views to subsidise the cost they paid for this subscription or the broadcasting license through subscriptions. They've got to find another way. So I can't hate on BT Sport. People have got this big entitlement. They want all content for free. It just doesn't fucking work like that. Everyone's got to make money. Everyone's got to eat. So I'm quite happy with BT Sport to do that if it means we can keep watching BT Sport in the UK, the UFC on BT Sport in the UK, because I think BT Sport offer a tremendously brilliant service. I think it's excellent. I think that we really have been lucky with BT Sport over the years, how much they've got behind the UFC, the quality of the broadcasts, their consistency. And don't forget, you know, just a few months ago, we were on the verge of having to go to a really, really, really shit platform like 11 Sports to watch UFC, which would have been a complete disaster. So if I've got to pay £80 a year for 4 big pay-per-views just to help BT Sport, you know, make a little bit more cash, incentivize them into keeping up the fight to retain the rights to broadcasting the UFC in the UK, then that's what I'm going to do, because I think if anyone else were to steal the rights away from BT Sport by outbidding them, it would be a complete disaster for UFC in the UK. So, a bit of a long-winded answer, but it's something that I'm very passionate about. I think everyone, particularly when it comes to content, they want something for nothing, and unfortunately if you want good content, you have to pay for it. So yeah, don't hate on BT Sport at all. So let us start out now by getting into the prop bet section of the video. So what I'm going to do, I won't answer any questions while we run through these prop bets, and then once the prop bet section of the video is out the way, I'll answer all your questions from the live chat. Now, I won't go back and answer any questions that are coming up at the moment, just because by the time I finish these prop bets, will probably be like, you know, it'll probably be like 20-30 minutes down the road where I'll be answering outdated questions that, you know, people that have asked the questions have probably left anyway. So I'll wait until the end of the prop bets, then get your questions in. I'll go through them one by one and answer them. So the first thing that I want to kick off today's live stream with is saying, again, a massive thank you to one of my members on my website. His name is Honeywell. He is an absolute legend, completely out the blue. I did not expect him to do this. He sent me an email this past week where he attached this spreadsheet to the email, and he's actually been going through the live streams over the last few months where I've been giving out the prop bets, and he has tracked all the prop bets that I've given out in this Excel spreadsheet. You know, I didn't ask him to do this. He's taken his own time to put this spreadsheet together, and he was kind enough to share it with me, which is amazing. So a massive thank you to Honeywell for doing this. I really appreciate it, mate. It means a lot, because to be honest, I'm really busy and I don't have time to track stuff like this. Don't have time to track my betting results on a really, really granular level. So when someone takes time out their day to put something like this together to help me out, it means a lot. Because to be honest, when we do these live streams, they're usually between 2 and 4 hours long, and then we go straight into the live UFC event. You know, once I'm done with this live stream tonight, I'll probably have a 30-minute to hour break, and then I will have to go straight into doing my live stream alternate fight commentary and live betting tips for my elite members, which will last a good 5, 6, 7 hours. So by the time that is done, I have no idea what prop bets I gave out. I completely forget, because it's a whirlwind from the time I start this live stream to the time I finish the alternate fight commentary in about 8 or 9 or 10 hours time. So I can't even remember what prop bets are half the time. The only reason why I ever know that that a prop bet has won is because people come into my chat room and thank me or send me a message or something. So a massive thank you to Honeywell. And as you can see so far, the prop bets have been doing pretty good. We can see here that overall we've made 15.45 units of profit, which isn't bad at all. Quite happy with that. We can also see that out of all the prop bets that I've given on the live streams, a total of 72 prop bets, 18 of them have won, 54 of them have lost, which is a hit rate of about 25%, which again isn't bad. We know that the majority of props that we place will lose because we're going for high risk, high reward bets. So I kind of try and hope I make it clear that the vast majority of prop bets will lose, but quite happy with hitting a 25% hit rate. And that has given us an overall return, an overall ROI of 21.46%, although I'm not sure if you can see that because my face cam is covering the box which shows the ROI, and like I say, this live stream's amateur hour, and then it won't be until the end of the year where I can clean it up and start getting all the fucking tech and software out where I could just drag my face cam away. I don't have that, but you'll have to. Oh, can I scroll down? Oh, yeah, here we go. There we go. ROI, you can see it, 21.46%. But I'm going to close this down now, because it is lagging my computer out. But a massive thank you to Honeywell. I really appreciate you putting that together, mate. And also a big thank you to Drexia, another one of my elite members who, when he's got time, jumps into the videos for the live streams when they get uploaded, and he lists all the prop bets out there clearly, which is quite helpful for me to then go back and see if I actually did do good or not. So before we get into these prop bets now, I want to make it very clear, you have just seen the vast majority of prop bets that I give you will lose. These bets are high risk, high reward bets. We are not looking for the silly little prop bets which don't pay out that much more than betting on a fighter straight. We're not trying to be too cute. We are trying to go for the big risky bets with a big payoff. And the reason why we do that is because there are so many variables in MMA that when you get down to betting on highly specific things, you need to make sure that there's a decent payoff waiting for you at the end of it, because if you try and get too cute, you're just going to get wrecked. So that is the strategy for prop bets. What I will also say is, this may come as a surprise to you, that if you are serious about making money from betting on MMA, and if you're very serious about, doing big things and growing a big bankroll, I would even recommend you don't place these prop bets. The first reason why I recommend you don't place these prop bets is that you should be trying to grow your money and grow your bankroll using compound interest. And when you place a lot of bets and you take a lot of losses, that can significantly slow down the rate at which you can grow your money with compound interest. In order to make big money with compound interest, you need to focus on a high win rate. A high return on investment is not important. You want a high win rate, because when you're consistently winning, you are racking up the profits and betting bigger amounts regularly, which basically snowballs the amount of money you can make. If your results graph is doing this and up and down and up and down, every time you hit a big period of variance and a big losing streak, that puts a massive dent in your overall money. And when you're using compound interest to grow your money, it can take you a long time to work your way back up. So if you are going to place these props, the way I recommend you do it is you bet the same stake on every single one of the props. Do not use compound interest for props or you will get wrecked. The variance is too big. So bet the same stake on every prop and only go small, because like I say, it is very possible that every single bet on an event can lose. It can absolutely happen very easily. So again, keep it small, and I recommend only placing these props for fun. Long term, will they be profitable? Probably. They probably will. But along the way, there's going to be some huge downswings and some huge upswings. And, when you go through huge downswings, that can cripple your bankroll. So be very careful. Treat prop bets like fun. Use them as a way to make watching fights more interesting. That's personally what I do. And I can't be any clearer than that, guys. I will never bullshit you. I am straight up. I will never ever bullshit you. Prop bets are risky as fuck. Okay, so that is it. We're almost ready to get into them. Just also want to let you know that the prop bets that I give out work on a three level of confidence kind of spectrum, I guess. The first stage of the spectrum is I don't really like the prop that much. If you held a gun to my head, that's the prop I would bet on that fight. But unless you really, really, really want to place a bet on that fight to make it more interesting, I would pass. That's kind of like stage 1 of the spectrum. Because obviously I say I'm going to give you a prop bet for every single one of these fights for people that love to gamble, right? I'm absolutely going to do that. I say I'm going to give you a prop bet for all these fights, but there needs to be like a spectrum. So the first stage of the spectrum is, like I say, I don't love it, but if you held a gun to my head, that's what I would go for. The second stage is a prop bet that I like, where, you know, I don't love it, but it's a reasonably good bet. You know, don't love it, but it is what it is. It's reasonably good. That's kind of like middle tier. And then the third tier of bet is a bet that I love, a bet that I think is brilliant, and a bet that you should absolutely go for. And you know what? The bets are in the love category. If you just actually stuck to those bets, you would probably make a much better profit over the long term. But that's it. Let's get into these props. I just like to make it very clear about props because they're dangerous. I don't want anyone watching this video to go and bet big on all the props that I give out, and then we lose all 12 of them and you get absolutely wrecked. I do not want that to happen to anyone. That's why I like to take a bit of time making it very clear how risky prop bets are. So now let's look at the first fight. And again, I haven't got anything planned for this video. I literally just look at the odds, see what jumps out at me, and go from there. So the first fight, Chukagian versus Calderwood. The only other thing is that you see on 5 Dimes and Sportbet, they offer these bets on like no scorecards, no action, and a few handicap props. They're pretty much the only betting websites in the world that offer those kind of props. So I won't be including them in my decision making, because if you live in Australia or many parts of Europe, you will not be able to tail those bets. So I'm just giving out universal props that everyone can jump on. So Chukagian versus Calderwood. First, WrestleMan UK has been blocked. So I will show you a comment, my friend. Sorry about that. YouTube getting very Nazi up in her. Okay. Right. Let's find the prop for this. Calderwood against Chukagian. I know what I like. And the odds are shit. The odds are so shit. I like Calderwood by Chukagian by decision. And the odds are shit. The odds are shit. Very shit. Because look at it, guys. The odds on Chukagian to win by decision, 2.25, which is plus 125. The odds on her to win straight at 2.0, which is plus 100. So why would you bother with the prop? There's just no point. So what I'm going to recommend for this fight is, I actually recommend passing, but if you absolutely must bet this fight, just bet Chukagian straight. I don't love it, but there's just no point in betting Chukagian to win by decision. The odds are virtually identical, as Goldberg would say. And obviously, that's not fair to say, actually. The odds aren't virtually identical. If you're focusing on a pre-fight bet, the difference in odds between 2.0 plus 100 and 2.25 plus 125 is quite a big difference. But in the grand scheme of things, when we're dealing with props and there are so many variables, the difference between odds of 2.25 and 2.0 in a prop bet capacity is completely negligible. So it's all about perspective and the circumstances. So yes, between 2.0 and 2.5, there's a big difference in the odds where we're dealing with money line bets, but not props. So I would just take Chukagian straight bet. That's definitely in the category of bets I don't like. Do not like that at all. Not very good at all. Not a good start. Not a good start, but I do think Chukagian wins by decision, so hopefully it wins. So then the next fight, Eddie Wineland against Grigory Popov. This was one of the only fight that I didn't cover in my breakdown videos this week because, well, to be honest with you, to do a good job of breaking this fight down would have required me to use fight footage of Popov, and I just didn't want to do that at 2 in the morning last night. It would have just been a bit of a campaign for me to plan all that out, so thought I'd give it a miss. It's not a fight I'm betting anyway, so nothing ventured, nothing gained, no big loss. But now we move into looking at the prop bets. So what do we have for props here? So just to give you an overview, you probably already know what Wineland brings to the table. Very unorthodox boxing style, fights with his hands low, quite hard to hit though. Hits hard when he gets aggressive, but has been a little bit passive since he broke his jaw against Johnny Eduardo a few years ago. But Wineland's still a very tricky matchup for anyone, especially if they're making their UFC debut, which Popov is. Popov is a 35-year-old Russian, very, very technical Muay Thai, trains at Tiger Muay Thai, doesn't bring too much else to the table though, and obviously making the UFC debut against a really unorthodox, tough veteran like Wineland is no picnic. And even though Wineland is the veteran in this fight, he's actually younger than Popov. Wineland's 34, Popov is 35. Let's see if we can find a prop for this fight. So, what's Wineland by decision? Ah, shit. The odds are shit. So, Wineland by decision, 2.69. Ugh, hate it. Just not that much of a difference from Wineland by decision and Wineland straight. I'm not betting that. That's too tight. Right. Ah, man. I don't know. The three possible outcomes, if you want to know a little bit about my decision making behind props, is I kind of work through a process map. So I think the first question I ask myself, what is the most likely outcome? Second question I ask myself, what are all realistic possibilities? And then the third question I ask myself is, what round are those possibilities likely to take place in? So to give you a much better example, I don't want to jump ahead, but yeah, maybe I should. It'll help you understand things a bit better. So if we work through the 3-stage process for identifying prop bets for the Donald Cerrone versus Tony Ferguson fight, I want to do this fight because everyone's familiar with these two fighters and you'll be able to relate to a lot of what I say. So stage 1, the first question is, what is the most likely outcome? I believe for this fight, many people will disagree, but please just humour me. It's just an example. It's an example I actually do believe in, so everything I'm saying I believe, but a lot of you will disagree. I believe the most likely outcome in this fight tonight is Donald Cerrone wins this fight by knockout. That is that is initially the very, very first prop I would look at. What are the odds on Cerrone by knockout? Then I would go to stage 2, because obviously there's loads of risk. There's loads of different ways a fight could play out, so we can't feel super confident in stage 1. Let's now explore all possibilities. So what are the other possibilities? Well, the other possibility is that Tony Ferguson comes out very aggressive, Donald Cerrone starts slow, struggles with the pressure, drowns in pressure, and loses. Yeah? Gets overwhelmed by pressure and just loses. The other option is that Donald Cerrone plays the role of matador, uses Ferguson's pressure against him, and just picks him off from the outside and chips away at him and completely outstrikes him like he did to Al Iaquinta. So that's stage 1, stage 2 complete. Now we go to stage 3. When are these outcomes likely to occur? So, if we look at it, the most likely outcome, I feel, on this fight is Cerrone winning by knockout. When is it most likely he's going to win by knockout? Well, it's probably not going to be round 1 because Cerrone starts slow. It could be round 2 because Cerrone will have had a little bit of time to find his range then. And it probably won't be round 3 because if Ferguson has made it into the third round, chances are the fight's very competitive and Ferguson will make it to the end of the fight, because remember, only 10% of fights end in round 3. So there, you work through a process map and you can think, right, so I believe the most likely outcome of this fight is Cerrone winning by knockout. But now I've worked through that process map, I believe it's more likely he wins by knockout in round 2. Let's check out the odds on Cerrone to win by knockout or Cerrone to win in round 2. And if those are shit, then you go to the next stage. You're like, okay, so the odds on those two things aren't very good. Let's explore the other possibilities. So there's a legit chance here that Ferguson will overwhelm Cerrone and just break him down and beat him with pressure. If that happens, when is that more likely to happen? Well, if it happens if the fight goes into round 2, I think Cerrone's going to be good, because I think he gets better as the fight goes on, and he'll start to punish Ferguson for his bad striking defense. So if Ferguson wins, I don't think it's going to be round 2. I don't think it'll be round 3. I think the longer the fight goes on, the better it gets for Cerrone. So if Ferguson's going to win this fight and overwhelm Cerrone with pressure, if Cerrone is going to struggle with the pressure, I believe, bang, it happens in round 1. So let's have a look at the odds on Tony Ferguson inside the distance, and when that might happen, most likely round 1. So that's the process map I have going on in this crazy Welsh head here when I am trying to find a prop bet for you. Which is why sometimes you see me staring at the camera or the screen doing a lot of thinking. So I'm kind of working this shit out as I go. So let's take a look. Let's take a look through this prop. So I'm working through this process map now. Which way do I think this fight is most likely to go? I think this fight is most likely to end with Wineland winning by decision. But the odds are shit. What are other possible outcomes? Well, either fighter winning by knockout or TKO. I've seen Popov get dropped a few times, and Wineland fights with his hands low. He's very hittable. Popov's got good technical Muay Thai. So wouldn't entertain the odds on Wineland to win by decision, because the odds are too short, so that's off the table. So it's going to be either of these if you really want to take a prop. And with Popov making his UFC debut, being old at 35 years old, facing a very tricky, unorthodox style, I would just take Wineland by knockout or TKO. If we bring his record up, he's not particularly prolific when it comes to knockout wins. Not particularly prolific at all. Doesn't have many wins over the last few years by knockout or TKO. I'm not trying to sell you on Wineland as a knockout artist, but if we process all the information we've got available to us here, we can see that he did knock out or finish Takeya Mizugaki and Frankie Saenz with strikes. Also finished Yves Joubuin with strikes back in 2014. And with Popov, even though he's got good technical Muay Thai, trains out of Tiger Muay Thai, he is old as fuck. He is quite small, and he's fought a super low level of opponent. We see here his last guy had a record of 4-4. This guy 3-2. Pro debut 5-6, 4-2. So he did get knocked out back in 2014 by this geezer in the Super Cup of Russia. So if you really want to bet this fight, I definitely don't like this bet. This definitely goes into the category of Chukagian. If you hold a gun to my head, I'm taking Eddie Wineland by knockout or TKO, but I do not love that bet at all. Do not like it at all. Right, so now let's go on to the next fight. And remember, guys, if you're asking me questions in the live chat, I will not answer them. I will not answer any questions you're giving me yet. I will answer all questions at the end of the prop bet section. I'll just, you ask me the questions, then I'll go through them. So, Bevon Lewis against Darren Stewart. What do we have here? So, the most likely outcome, I believe, is Lewis by... Ooh! Alright, now it's game time. Finally, we've got a bet I love. Finally it's happening to me. Found a bet I like, I'm gonna recommend it. Didn't like the other props, they were shit. I've found a prop I like. Just need a little bit of confirmation. Little bit of confirmation here. Yeah, I'm having it. I'm fucking having it, boys. Right, the prop bet I recommend, the first prop in the love category is, drum roll please, Bevon Lewis to win by submission at 16.50. That is fucking beautiful. Lovely odds on that. Bevon Lewis by submission. That is fucking delicious, because Darren Stewart has a very low level ground game. His takedown defense is absolutely fucking garbage. He's been submitted by basically two strikers in Carl Robertson and Julian Marquez. Now, we know Bevon Lewis is primarily a kickboxer. We know this fight is more likely to stay standing, but trust me, Bevon Lewis is a strong wrestler, good technical ground game, long limbs, He could take Darren Stewart down anytime he wanted and cause him big problems on the ground. And remember, when we're looking at prop bets, guys, we are not trying to be cute. We are not taking those shitty little Chukagian to win by decision props, which are quite likely to hit, but the payout's absolute trash. Those are not the props we're interested in. To make money from props, you have to go for high risk, high reward. And Bevon Lewis to win by submission at 16.0 is bonkers, to quote Dizzy Rascal. Absolute bonkers. Because Darren Stewart's been submitted by 2 kickboxers in Carl Robertson and Julian Marquez. And trust me, Bevon Lewis's ground game is at a much higher level than Marquez's and Robertson's. And we just see it when Stewart's fighting. His ground game is just white belt level. It's shocking. So, you know, guys, look at me dead in the eye. Look at the mad eye here. I am not saying that is a safe bet. I'm not saying Bevon Lewis is going to win by submission. All I'm saying is that's a fucking good bet, because you only have to win that one bet on the entire card. You could win that one bet and lose all the other 11 props and be in profit. Those are the kind of props you want to take. So Bevon Lewis by submission, bloody lovely. I'll take that. Love it. 3 categories: don't like, love. That goes in the love category. Chukagian to win by decision, hate it. Wineland to win by knockout or TKO, hate it. Lewis to beat Stewart by submission, love it. And when we're going extreme ends of the spectrum here, we aren't falling in the middle. We like it. We hate it or love it. That's how we're rolling with on these first 3 fights. Now, I know where I want to bet in the next fight. I fucking know where I want to bet on the next fight. And I know the odds are going to be shit. But I'm going to have to probably go for it anyway, because I only really like one outcome on this fight. So Angela Hill against Yaonan Yan. Yaonan Yan's odds improved over the last 48 hours, had a little spike. She went from around 1.50, which is minus 200, up to around 1.61, which is minus 164, and then just got completely rejected. I was hoping her odds would hit 1.66, which is minus 152 across the board. Never got there, so I didn't bet her, unfortunately. Gotta let the odds do the work for you. But here we go now. Angela Hill against Yaonan Yan. Let's find a juicy prop for this, although already I can see that the odds aren't going to be great on this. So let's have a little thinky poo. What are we going to go for? So the most likely outcome is obviously Yan to win by decision. The odds are absolutely shit though. Why would you bet on Yan to win by decision at odds of 1.80 when you can just bet her straight at 1.50? In terms of moneyline pre-fight bets, again, yes, that's a big difference in odds. But in terms of props where the amount of variables are extreme, there's just no fucking point in betting on that. So we have to find something more entertaining. Now, Angela Hill's got really bad cardio, but she's really tough. So I don't like Yan in round 3. Oh, man. Don't like anything here. See, even if you were to roll the dice on Hill, because she can win. I don't think Hill will win, but she can win. Even if you were to roll the dice on Hill at 3.51 by decision, the odds are just not that much better than betting her straight at 2.80. So there's no point, guys. You know what? If I'm only going to recommend Yan to win by decision here, because it's the most realistic outcome for me. Again, it's in the category of I don't like it. I do not like that prop. But if you hold a gun to my head, if you force me to place a prop on this fight, I'm going to take Yan by decision. I don't love it. I don't even like it. If it goes into the category of only bet Yan by decision if you really want to bet this fight for fun to make it more interesting. And now we go on to the next fight. Alexa Grasso versus Karolina Kowalkiewicz. A fight that's given me such a fucking headache this week. I spent a good 4 hours this week, probably longer. I spent about 4 hours on research and then about fucking 40 hours agonizing over it. Really struggled with this one. Really did struggle with this one. Yeah, I did struggle. Thought I saw something interesting then, but not as interesting as I thought. Again, think the most likely outcome is Kowalkiewicz by decision at 2.35, but why would you bet that when you can just bet her straight at 1.95? Just makes absolutely no sense why you would do that. And that's the most likely outcome. I don't really see any other outcome. Both girls are very tough. Both girls have got great cardio. Both are reasonably well-rounded. Obviously, they're quite low level on the ground, but because they are both quite low level on the ground, neither of them should pose too much of a threat to the other. So, yeah, again, I'm going to make this quick. If you hold a gun to my head, I'm betting Carolina to win by decision. If you really, really, really want to bet this fight, I'll take Carolina by decision, but I absolutely don't love it. It's in the don't like category. Now we go on to Aljamain Sterling against Pedro Munoz, another fight which has given me a huge headache. Again, I spent fucking 20 hours battling with this one in my head. I'm still battling with it now. I'm still considering a bet on Pedro Munoz. I haven't made my mind up yet. But if we look at it from a prop bet capacity, let's bring their records up. I know, basically, this is how I see this fight, right? This shows that I'm a bitter old man that's been doing this for a long time. If I bet Munoz tonight, I guarantee Aljamain Sterling's going to go full Elias Theodorou, get on his bike, run away, stay on the outside, pick Munoz off from the outside, and I know Munoz will go full zombie like he did against John Dodson and just follow Sterling around the cage and basically not land anything and lose a decision. If I don't bet on Munoz, I know Munoz is going to come out, put in the greatest performance of his career, cut the cage off better than he ever has done before, walk Sterling down and box his face off and turn him into a panic wrestler. But it's fucking annoying because I know that those are the two most likely outcomes, and if I bet Munoz, he'll lose. If I pass on Munoz, he'll win. That's how this is going to go, guys. So, I am probably going to pass on him because we're quite close to the event now, which means Munoz is probably going to win tonight, so jump on it. That is not financial advice, not gambling advice, but it's the way the fucking MMA gods treat me. I guarantee the last fight like this was Grant Dawson against Mike Trizano, and I guarantee if I would have passed on Trizano, he would have turned Grant Dawson into a panic wrestler and boxed his face off. That is the way that the cookie crumbles. But we are on this fight now, Pedro Munoz against Aljamain Sterling. What I have noticed about Sterling is in grappling exchanges, he does put his head in a lot of dangerous positions, and obviously Pedro Munoz's guillotine is vicious. But it is not easy to submit Aljamain Sterling. Obviously trains under Matt Serra, high-level training partner every day in Al Ayaquinta, trains with Chris Weidman as well. So the two most likely outcomes, I guess, see, I'm even open to betting Sterling to win by decision, but I'm not betting that at 2.26 when you could just bet Munoz straight. And again, guys, I can see some questions popping up in the live chat. I won't be asking these questions, guys. I won't be answering these questions. Wait until after I've covered the props and then ask them again. And then I'll go through your questions after I've covered these props off. Just otherwise, the chat box gets out of control. And I end up being way, way, way behind people watching. Oh, this fight, man's giving me a headache. I would go for... Oh, god damn it. You know when you place a bet and you just know it's going to lose? I would bet Munoz wins inside the distance. But I don't love it. I don't like it either. Don't like it or love it. But he is a dangerous guy. And Sterling does put his head in a lot of bad positions on the ground, even though he's a high-level grappler. Munoz is a higher-level grappler. And that also covers the possibility that Munoz could rock Sterling with something big. and knock him out, but I don't like it that much at all. I don't know. Actually, retreat. I don't know. Munoz by decision. I don't know. All right, retreat. Retreat, guys. We're not going to go for Munoz to win inside the distance. I've changed my mind. We're going to go for Munoz to win by decision, just because Sterling is going to be moving backwards the whole fight, which means it's going to be hard to land anything big, clean and significant on him. Sterling is a high-level grappler, so it's not going to be that easy to catch him in a submission on the ground. I would go for Munoz by decision at 4.28, but I don't like it. Not very many good props on this card, I'm not going to lie. This is not a very good event for prop bets. This is the type of event where I could see losing every single one of the props that I've given out so far. None of them... I mean, I love Bevon Lewis to win by submission. I absolutely love it. But it's a long shot, you know? It's not likely that it wins. But if you hold a gun to my head, I'll take Munoz by decision, but I don't like it. Next one. Blagoy Ivanov against Tai Tuivasa. Oh, man. Do you know what? What I will say, so we're almost halfway through the card. I would say the bookies have got these odds stitched right up. Not really seeing many good opportunities at all. You know what? The odds on Bevon Lewis to win by submission are way off. They're ludicrous. They are absolutely ludicrous at 16.0, which is plus 1,550. I think they're way off. But the props on all the other fights have been totally rubbish. They've just been bad. Alright. Okay, we might have a bet here. On this fight, I would take Ivanov to win by decision. The odds are 3.77. Which is plus 277. I would take Ivanov by decision. Because as you can see, he's very tough. He's fought some very dangerous opponents. You know, Ben Rothwell, Junior Dos Santos, Sean Jordan hits very hard. Smilio Rama's no picnic. Alexander Volkov got submitted there. LeVar Johnson used to hit like a truck. Rico Rodriguez, you know, used to hit, well, he's very, very dangerous. I think he's still fighting. So yeah, Ivanov, very elusive, very difficult to land clean, long as he's constantly moving backwards and counter-striking. Tuivasa's not the most technical. I would take Ivanov by decision there. The odds aren't great, but hopefully it will win and at least put some money on the board, because this event is a tough one. Very, very tough one. So yeah, Ivanov by decision. It's alright. I'd say I like that, actually. Not a massive difference on betting him straight, but a reasonably decent difference. I would take that. Now we go for Jimmy Rivera against Piotr Yan. God, this event is shit for prop bets, guys. Not going to lie to you, this is a shit event for prop bets. Better off keeping your money safe and not tailing these, in my opinion. I have a feeling that Honeywell's spreadsheet is going to take a big loss next week because these props are shit. Oh my god, the odds are just shit. Yan by knockout or TKO is 2 points. So basically, the most likely outcome on this fight, right, is Yan by decision. So straight away, my eye goes to Yan by decision, which is 2.39. But those odds are shit. So I'm like, okay, Yan by decision, sewn up, the odds are crap. Now let's go to something a bit crazier, where there's got to be a better payoff because there's a lot more risk. So I jumped straight to Yan to win by knockout or TKO and it's 2.74. It's fucking bollocks. The odds are rubbish. Genuinely, guys, like I please, if you like money, don't tail these props because they're shit. The odds are shit on this event for props so far. Maybe we've got one we love. Take Bevon Lewis by submission. I do like that. The others, trash. Total trash. Do you know what? I am the kind of guy that would go for Rivera to win by knockout or TKO at 12.05. That appeals to me more. Because Yan is very reckless. But he's also very good at recovering. Don't love it. Especially with how Rivera was looking quite gun shy in his last fight against Aljamain Sterling and John Dodson. After the devastating KO loss against Marlon Moraes, but then Peter Yan will force him to engage. And Rivera doesn't really have knockout power. It's too much of a long shot for me. I don't mind taking long shots, but that's just too much of a long shot. So I would go for... I'd go for Yan to win by decision at 2.39, but I don't like it. The odds are shit, guys. You want better odds than this for props. You really, really want better odds than this. The odds are shit. Don't know how clearer I can be for you. You are probably going to lose money if you tail all these props. And I'm terrible at, obviously I'm terrible at marketing and advertising because you're all here watching me for betting advice. And I'm straight up telling you that the bets I'm giving you are probably going to lose. So I am terrible at my job. But it's the way it goes, man. At the end of the day, you can only try and put your money in strong positions. And if the odds on offer aren't good enough, then you ain't putting your money in a strong position, so why bother in the first place? It's fuck all you can do. If the odds are shit, the odds are shit. It's not a damn thing you can do about it. That's just the way I feel. So now, the next fight on this list, Jessica Ai against Valentina Shevchenko. Let's take a look. Surely we've got to get some more props I like or love on this main card. Surely. The bet that I like is Shevchenko to win by decision. I'm not looking. Please tell me Shevchenko to win by decision is good because everyone thinks Shevchenko is going to smoke Jessica Ai. Please tell me Shevchenko by decision is very juicy odds. Please, I'm going to look now. Fucking kidding me. Shevchenko's win by decision 2.23. It's absolutely shit. What can you do, man? What can you do? I thought that people would think Shevchenko was good enough to completely smoke Jessica Ai, which I don't think she is. Jessica Ai is very tough. Shevchenko's quite passive. They are epically shit odds for a 25-minute title fight with someone with skills as superior as Shevchenko over Ai. Shit odds, man. Guys, I promise you, I will look dead in the camera. I will always give it to you 100% real. I will tell you when a bet is an amazing bet from right in my heart, from my DNA. I will tell you when a bet is a good bet. I will tell you when a bet is a shit bet. All the props so far, apart from Bevon Lewis by Seb, is shit. Just have a quick glance at their records. See, Shevchenko's just not a finisher. She really isn't. Obviously, Kachira is super low level. Aside from the win by armbar in kind of weird circumstances against Juliana Pena, Shevchenko's a bit of a decision machine. And if we look at Jessica Ai, she's really tough. She's also a decision machine. But fuck me, to bet on Shevchenko to win by decision in a 25-minute fight at 2.23, that's so shit. It's absolute bollocks. The odds are terrible. I don't know if I can bring myself to recommend it. If you absolutely have to bet this fight, take Shevchenko by decision. If you absolutely must, just to make it more interesting, then take Shevchenko by decision. But I hate that bet. It's shit. Absolutely shit. And I'm sorry that this live stream hasn't been as good as the others. But shout out to the bookies, man. They've got it sewn up. The odds on these props are rock solid. Like, they're exactly where they should be. You know, we've gone to the most likely outcome in pretty much all these fights so far, and the odds have been really, really shit on all the most likely outcomes. So there's nothing you can do, guys. If the odds aren't, if there's no value in the odds, not a damn thing you can do about it. There really isn't anything you can do about it. The props are epically shit for this event. It's hard for me to put into words how bad the props are for this event, but they're bad. Like, I've done loads of live streams. I've done one a week for like the past 3 months, and this is the worst week by far for props I've ever seen. Shocking. The bookies have got it sewn up. With 4 fights left to go, maybe we'll get some surprises. So this next fight, Calvin Kattar against Ricardo Lamas. What shall we go for here? Okay. What do we have here? Oh, the odds are shit. The odds are shit. The odds are shit. I thought that the bookies would see Kattar having a bunch of wins by decision. They would see Lamas, go the distance with some high-level guys and offer good value on Kattar to win by knockout or TKO. The odds are shit. The odds are shit. Need more than 4.31. Not taking that. Lamas is tough. Oh, God. Bookies have got this one sewn up, guys. Don't know what to tell you. Whoops, sorry about that, guys. God, the odds on this fight are really bad. I'm just going to have to recommend a pass. I'm kind of thinking Kattar in round 3 at 15.25 because Lamas is old as hell now at 37 years old. His decline has got to come at some point, and he did slow down in the third rounds of his last fight against Bektic and Elkins. He got a third round finish, but he was kind of looking sloppy in the third round. Definitely did slow down a bit against Bektic and Elkins in the third rounds. Started to get a little sloppier. Kattar gets stronger as the fight goes on. Again, if you absolutely have to bet this fight, if you really, really badly want a prop for this fight, take Kattar to win in round 3 at 15.25. Just because it's one of those high risk, high reward bets that I like to go for. But it's just not a good bet. It probably loses. If you hold a gun to my head, I'm taking that prop. That's the best prop on this fight. But definitely don't like it. Right, now we go on to the next fight, which is Nina Ansaroff against Tatiana Suarez. Again, the odds aren't great. The odds aren't great. But if I've got a prop, I can't say I like this prop, but I like it more than most of the other ones I've given you. So if you really, really want to bet this fight, the prop I would take is Suarez to win in round 2 at odds of 5.25. The reason why I would go for Suarez to win in round 2 is because Ansaroff, her initial takedown defense isn't bad. When you start to chain stuff together, she does give up easy takedowns. But, she trains at American Top Team, has them for a long time. She's a direct training partner of Amanda Nunes. She's got a decent level ground game, knows how to defend herself. So I think she'll make Suarez work hard in round 1 for takedowns, but eventually Suarez will get her down. But the problem with Nina is she's primarily a striker, so if you really force her to grapple hard, which Suarez will do because she's relentless, she's got the cardio to wet blanket her opponents for 3 rounds, no problem. she will start to wear on Ansarov, and Ansarov will find it more difficult to defend takedowns in round 2. And Ansarov is not very good at all at working her way back to her feet when she does get taken down. She just kind of accepts being on the bottom. So I like Suarez in round 2 because I've noticed that Nina gives her back up a lot when trying to improve her position on the ground. Suarez has got really long limbs. She's very, very good at getting hooks in and fishing for the rear naked choke. And I think after she's really worn Nina down, Nina will find it harder to defend herself in round 2. And I think that's when Suarez will crank the pressure up and go for a finish. Probably by trying to take the back when Nina inevitably will start to give her back up, or even by putting her in a bad position, taking mount instead of moving to back control. Forcing Nina, instead of giving her back up, to just flatten herself out and allow Suarez to step over into mount. And then that would open the door for Suarez to finish the fight with ground and pound, get a TKO win. So Suarez to win in round 2, I don't like it, but it's one of the better ones, I would say. It's probably my second favourite prop after Bevon Lewis to win by submission. Now we go on to the co-main event between Donald Cerrone and Tony Ferguson. Oh, it's not the actually. It's not the co-main event at all. It's just a main card fight, but it is the people's main event. This is the one it's been a long time since I was this excited for a fight. So, the two bets that I like here. Again, the odds aren't great. I would go for Cerrone to win in round 2. Again, I don't love it. I don't like it. But it's one of the bets that I like more than most of the others, just because I think that Tony Ferguson's striking defense is so bad that if Cerrone can weather the early storm and drag Ferguson into the second and third rounds, I think when Cerrone starts to find his range, I think Ferguson's completely screwed. I think a lot of people are capping this fight in the wrong way. I think they believe that, and they were kind of, a lot of people were saying the same thing in the Al Iaquinta fight. People are assuming that the longer this fight goes on, the better the fight will get for Ferguson, because Ferguson's pressure will start to build and Cerrone will come under more and more pressure. And they were saying the same things in the Al Iaquinta fight, but it's actually the opposite. The longer the fight goes on, the better it gets for Cerrone, because Ferguson's striking defense is so bad, he's so hittable, that the longer the fight goes on, the more Cerrone's going to get comfortable and find his range, and then he'll start to be able to pick Ferguson off and land some big shots on him. So, like I said earlier, if the fight goes into the third round, it probably goes the distance. If the fight makes it out of the first round, I think Cerrone's got a great chance of getting a finish in round 2. So that's one of my favourite props at 8.0. Would have liked better odds, but, not the end of the world. And now we go into the main event, which is Henry Cejudo against Marlon Moraes. See if we can find something decent on this fight. So again, Moraes by knockout or TKO, sewn up at 2.73. Odds are absolutely shit. Absolutely shit. Let's see. God, this event is garbage for prop betting. Absolute garbage, guys. I'm not going to lie. Absolute garbage. What are we going to go for? God, I hate this event for prop bets. I don't check the props before I do this live stream. I wish I would have, and I would have been able to tell you guys, like, not even to bother watching this because it's shit. I guess if you really want to bet a prop on this fight, oh my god, the odds are so shit on these props. I would go for... Moraes to win in round 1 at 5.25, but I don't like the odds. The reason why I would go for it is because Moraes has a long history of first round finishes. He's absolutely kill-shotted 3 very, very durable opponents in his last 3 fights. You know, if you watch my breakdown for this fight, you'll know that Sterling, Rivera and Asuncao are not the type of guys to get death-shotted. You know, these guys have, you know, between them only got 2 or 3 knockout or TKO losses in a combined total of around 90 pro fights. So definitely impressive what Moraes has been able to do in his last 3 fights. And we also see that, you know, Cejudo's got a susceptibility to getting caught cold early. He was hurt in the first round quite bad against Demetrius Johnson, and someone with more of a killer instinct might have been able to get him out of there with the issue he had with his leg. And we know that Marlon Moraes has got vicious leg kicks as well, so, you know, if Cejudo is susceptible to getting a dead leg off the back of a vicious leg kick, then Moraes isn't the kind of guy to let him recover. And also we saw him caught cold with a shot to the body against Mighty Mouse, and we know that Marlon Moraes hits a hell of a lot harder than Mighty Mouse. He's a hell of a lot more explosive and dangerous. We also know, if you watch my breakdown for that fight, that Cejudo is still showing signs of being an inexperienced striker, where he overreacts to feints and overcommits his head one way to the side when throwing power strikes. So yeah, don't love it, but Moraes to win in round 1, probably your better bet on that main event, but that is undoubtedly the worst event for prop bets since I started this channel. Absolute dog shit, terrible odds. If you like money, please don't tail any of those props, because the chances of earning a profit from the total bag of shit I've just recommended to you is not very high. You are much better off living to fight another day. They're just terrible props. The odds are shocking. So yeah, I don't recommend it, but if you really, really want to gamble tonight to make the fights more interesting, go for it. So what I will do now, guys, I will let some questions build up in the chat room. If you've got any questions you want to ask me, check them in the live chat now, and I will go through them and ask all your questions. So again, sorry this video's not been the best, but if the odds aren't there, there's nothing you can do about it. You know what I mean? If the bookies aren't giving us the odds, there's nothing you can do. So I'll take a quick break now, guys, while these questions build up. If you've got any questions, please drop a question in the live chat, and I'll answer all of them now. We've got a good 3 hours before the event starts, so plenty of time to get through your questions. And my God, I was full of energy at the start of this live stream, and those props have sucked the life out of me, man. Rubbish odds, which is really actually quite surprising, because I think that a lot of the odds on this card, a lot of the money line odds, have been quite inaccurate. I bet Cerrone last week at 2.45. He's got back to there now, which is plus 145. I think those odds are way off. I really think they're way off. I think the odds on Cater are way off. I think he should be closer to about 1.50, minus 200 from where he is now. And I think that the odds are now accurate on Marlon Moraes. I think he should be around about a 1.67 favourite, which is minus... What is going on here? I'm hitting the number 7. Oh, number lock. Yeah, so I think these odds are actually quite accurate on Moraes now. But I bet him at 1.83 last week when felt there were tons of value. So I do feel there's been quite a lot of additional value up on the money line odds, which should have been an indicator that there'll be some juicy props buried in there, because if the odds are inaccurate on high liquidity lines like these money line bets, then you'd think that you get a lot of inaccuracies on lower liquidity lines like the props. But bookies have absolutely nailed the odds on most of these. Don't know what to tell you. It's just shit, really shit. So I will now go back and answer all your questions. So Thug Rose has asked, do you think Pat Barry should be arrested for grooming Thug Rose? Man, I think Pat Barry's a cool guy, man. She could do a lot worse than him. He seems like a really friendly dude. They seem to get on well. He's got quite a warm energy about him. So no, man, I like Pat Barry. I think he's a good dude. So WrestleMan UK has asked, do you think making money in MMA will be easier to bet on in the future due to the sport expanding, or do you think it will be harder to make money because of a lot more people betting on the sport? I think that it will get easier with the more people betting on the sport. So, for example, I'm not trying to throw shade on anyone at all, but the vast majority of people that bet on MMA have absolutely no idea what they're doing. They have really strong opinions, but their opinions are not based on fact. So when you have a lot of people throwing a lot of money around that don't really know what they're doing, it'll lead to big inaccuracies in the odds. So if we think about it, the percentage total of people that know a lot about MMA, that bet on MMA and know how to gamble as well, only make up a tiny percentage of the total amount of money staked on MMA. The vast majority of money, which dictates where the lines move, is from the dumb betting public, to be honest, who don't really know what they're doing. So really good examples of this were, in fact, probably the best example I can think of over the last few months was Belal Muhammad against Curtis Melender. So anyone that knew anything about MMA would have known that Belal Muhammad was a terrible matchup for Curtis Melender. Absolutely terrible matchup. And I think Belal Muhammad's odds opened up at around about 1.60, which is minus 167. And I honestly couldn't believe what I was seeing. Like, I personally believe that Belal should have been closer to a 1.36 favourite, which was minus 278. And as you saw, he dominated the fight, particularly in the second and third round. So when you see odds open up at 1.60, which is minus 167, and you cap a fighter at 1.36, which is minus 278, you would naturally think that the opening odds are inaccurate, and the closer we get to the time of the fight, as more money comes in, the odds would decline and go closer to 1.36. But the opposite happened. All the dumb money flooded in that saw Curtis Melender's highlight reel. He was an exciting, flashy fighter. They thought he was going to knock Belal Muhammad out. So instead of the odds declining, they actually improved up to about 1.81, which is minus 123, which was an enormous amount of value compared to where the odds should have been on that fight. And this year, there are so many examples of inaccurate odds. I feel that the odds of Marlon Moraes were very inaccurate at 1.83. They've finally been corrected, but all week you had the opportunity to bet Moraes at much better odds than he is now. I think that the odds on Donald Cerrone at 2.45 are an absolute steal. You can get him now. He was bet down a lot more earlier in the week, and there are loads more examples that we've had. So I think as more money comes in, it'll get easier to make money because the vast majority of people betting on MMA are dumb and they don't understand the sport, which means the odds will move in ways where you can find good value. James McGuinness has asked, what was your ROI in poker approximately? Was it a sustainable form of income for you? James, I have absolutely no idea what my ROI on poker was, mate, because I stopped playing about 10 years ago, so a very, very long time ago now, mate. I have absolutely no idea. Had to retire when my son was born, because obviously when you've got a young son, you need a more stable income, and you can't be staying up at a computer for like 12, 14 hours grinding at the table. So you've got to look after him. So I had to quit poker back then, so no idea what my ROI was. And was it a sustainable form of income for you? It was a sustainable form of income back then, but I was at a different stage in my life. So I was in my early 20s. I didn't have any commitments, you know what I mean? I lived at home with my parents, so my cost of living would be way lower than it is now. If I was trying to live on the money that I was making from poker back then, now in my circumstances now where I own my own house and I've got a kid and I've got fucking cars to pay for, bills to pay for, yeah, there's no way I could sustain myself now, but I could back then when my cost of living was so low. So James has also asked, do you think it's worth having a defined grading system for your fight analysis videos? Something like 25% slight lean, 50% pass but should win, 75% pass if odds improve, 100% locked in bet. Yeah, that's a good idea, man. That is a good idea. I will definitely look at building something like that in the future. The problem with the suggestions is I don't get much free time to like think of stuff like this up. But I will. I've got a 2-week break now, so I'll try and give that a bit of thought in the next 2 weeks, mate, and come up with something. That's a really good idea. Thanks, mate. So Giggsy SG11 has said, what site do you recommend for live betting, not counting Bet365? Do you know what, mate? I would say that's a tough question. What I would say is Bet365 are the best, as much as it hates me to say that because they're pigs and I hate them, but they are the best. And then everyone else, there isn't a second place. Kind of like there are a bunch of websites that are in second place just because they all have strengths and weaknesses. So, for example, LV Bet have got the best interface, but they tend to limit you faster than places like Paddy Power and William Hill that don't have the best systems, but they do allow you to win a bit more. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of second places. They've all got strengths and weaknesses. LV Bet, William Hill, Paddy Power, Unibet, 888 Sport. They're all in second place, but there's no like good alternative to Bet365. Bet365 are the best, as much as I hate them. So then we've got, oh no, the chat's jumping about all over the place. God damn. So if I miss, you can't. Okay, Stephen Hartley has said, Chris, your odds are off on a lot of those props. Sorry, dude, I've just got to use the information that's available to me on best fight odds, but the odds will differ dramatically between different betting sites on low liquidity markets. It's just the way it is. James McGuinness has asked, do you like Ansarov over 1.5 rounds? Do you know what? This was a bet I was thinking of placing. I really was. Yesterday, I went back and researched Suarez versus Ansarov a second time, because when the overs came out, the over 1.5 rounds was very appealing to me. Because if we look at both girls' records, and like I say, Ansarov does have good initial takedown defense. She really, really does. If we look at their records, Ansarov's obviously a decision machine. And Suarez, you know, has a lot of finishes, but against quite low-level grapplers. You know, Grasso is a low-level grappler. Kate Jackson, no ground game at all. Amanda Cooper's a low-level grappler. When she's actually fought girls with a decent level of grappling, like JJ Aldridge, like Pereira, and like Carla Esparza, the fights have either gone way past the 7.5-minute mark that you'd need to cash the over 1.5 rounds, or in the case of JJ Aldridge, it's got very close. But when I went back and researched it, I didn't like it so much, simply because when Suarez does get her opponents down, she aggressively pursues the finish. And when Ansarov is on her back, she finds it difficult to improve her position. So she's pretty good at defending herself, but she does give her back up a lot, which leaves her very, very vulnerable to a rear naked choke. And obviously, if you are at risk of having your back taken and being choked out, one of the best defences for that is to roll to your back and give up mount. And obviously, if Suarez takes mount, she's absolutely devastating with ground and pound. So I decided to pass on the over 1.5 rounds just because I believe Suarez will get Ansarov down. And when she does, she will put Ansarov in some really bad positions, and there's a good chance she'll get a finish. I don't know when that finish will come, but it's a good chance that it happens before the 7.5 minute mark. Around a 30 to 40% chance that it happens before 7.5 minutes. And if we look at the implied probability on the over 1.5 rounds of odds of 1.50 at minus 200, the implied probability is 67%. And because we're giving Ansarov a 30 to 40% chance of finishing the fight before the 7.5 minute mark, that means there's just no value there. So I would pass on that. But it definitely did pique my interest until I researched it. Frederick has asked, what do you think about Valentina KO or TKO? Take a look at the odds. At odds of 3.94, I just don't like it that much. If we look at the records of both girls, they're both absolute decision machines. Shevchenko's quite passive. She's not that aggressive at all. Just looks to chip away at her opponent. She's a little bit more aggressive at flyweight, but I still worry that she's going to show up and put in a passive performance. As you can see, lots and lots of wins by decision, against, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of her last 9 fights have gone to a decision. She's only got finishes against a really low level of opponent in Kuchera, and a kind of weird submission against Pena. And then, Jessica Ai is second best to Shevchenko everywhere from a technical point of view, but she's very tough. She's also a decision machine, gone the distance with Alexis Davis, Misha Tate, Juliana Pena, decision machines. So I don't like it that much. Don't hate it, but don't like it either. Let's find the next question. Okay. Jack Attack has asked, what I really want to know is if Brandon K and the MMA Guru had a fight, who would you favour and why? Sorry, dude, I don't really know who those guys are. Haven't got a clue. But I would guess Brandon K because he's brave enough to use his real name, whereas the MMA Guru is hiding behind another name. So probably, and I mean MMA Guru. When you call yourself a guru, I mean, come on, man. Like, be humble, man. Are you really a guru? If I was an MMA guru, I wouldn't be making YouTube videos. I'd be driving Lambos around Monaco. It's just how I see it. So he's probably a bullshitter. I'd say Brandon, even though I don't know anything about either guy. KWYATJO has asked, I like Cowboy for the sub. Ferguson puts himself in precarious positions for no reason. Cerrone inside the distance at plus 252. Yes, I do think Cowboy will win inside the distance. I also think Cowboy to win by sub is a real possibility. We saw Kevin Lee manage to advance from full guard into mount against Tony, which isn't a good thing at all. I feel Cerrone's at a higher level than Ferguson on the ground. Definitely a stronger wrestler, or a stronger offensive wrestler. Yeah, it's possible, man. So Trills MMA has asked, can you give a percentage rating on fighters you think will win? I'm not too sure what you mean by that, mate. I am not too sure what you mean by that. If you could clarify, do you mean... I'm not too sure what you mean by that, mate. I'm sorry. If you could ask again, though, I will get to it. Okay. Has said, did you see staph infection on Cowboy's chest? Do you think it will affect the fight? I didn't see a staph infection, no, mate, and I wish I could bring it up. But if I bring up the weigh-ins on this computer when I'm live streaming, it will lag the live stream out bad and potentially crash it. I didn't notice it, but yeah, it's definitely not a good thing if Cerrone's got staph on his chest. I didn't notice it. I watched the early weigh-ins. I watched the ceremonial weigh-ins. I didn't notice it. But if he's got staph, it's definitely bad news, man. Not a good thing. And yes, it will affect the fight if he's got staph. Ray has said, do you think Khabib's chin has attained the level of legendary? I'm not sure, man. I'm not sure. We haven't really seen anyone manage to turn Khabib into a panic wrestler. So I'm not too sure. Not too sure. We haven't really seen him take any big shots for any sustained period of time. Bob Bobson has asked, how do you typically compose your bets? Are you doing singles, doubles, or accumulators? I never ever, well, I very rarely do accumulators. If I do, it's maximum of 2 legs. And I might only place 4 or 5 accumulators per year. 99% of my bets are singles. Fire hard and aggressively on singles. Just bet you feel super confident in. Don't mess around, don't beat around the bush. If you feel confident in a fighter, bet on them big and aggressively to win. Why complicate it by introducing more variables like parlays, accumulators, prop bets? Just doesn't make any sense. James McGuinness has asked, do you think it's worth for smaller stakes bettors £100-ish to recommend Betfair Exchange? I have been able to lock in bets there a lot. Yeah, Betfair Exchange is okay if you don't bet much money, because you won't get limited no matter how much you win there, because it's an exchange. But the max bet limits at Betfair Exchange are very low, so if you're betting larger amounts, it's a waste of time. Lee Dosis has asked, you're in Game of Thrones and you are sentenced to a trial of combat. Who is the fighter that you would choose to be your champion? What a fucking question, man. I'm in Game of Thrones and I'm sentenced to do a trial by combat. Who is the fighter I would choose to be my champion? Wow, that's a big, big, big question. Obvious pick would be Jon Snow. Obviously, not spoiler alert, Jon Snow is the fucking man. But I mean, I'm trying not to give any spoilers, but Arya is quite tasty as well. I mean, you would hate to send a girl to fight for you, but let's be real. There was that scene in Winterfell where she was training with Brienne of Tarth, and she laid the smackdown on Brianna's candy ass. So even though, Jon Snow, Brianna, they're all amazing with that traditional knight sword fighting style, seems like, the many-faced god taught Arya a few tricks that could make her a handful. So, yeah, Jon Snow or Arya is tough, man. Probably Arya. She's got that many-faced god shit. And also, Arya is like Tony Ferguson, man. When she was training with the many-faced gods, that girl beat the shit out of her, and she kept getting back up. So, she's got an amazing chin, great recovery. She's very tough. She'll fight for your money. So yeah, man, probably Arya, all things considered. What a question. I love Game of Thrones. Fucking wicked. Try not to give any spoilers away, though. Hashtag everyone dies. Just kidding. Not everyone dies. If you haven't watched it, go watch it. It's amazing. Best TV show ever. The iceberg that sent the Titanic has said, I asked this question last week, but would Cerrone pull an upset against Ferguson, going on to scrape a miracle win against Khabib and becoming lightweight champion, the greatest story in MMA? Yeah, it might be, man. It might be. Especially after Cerrone has got so close so many times and been rejected. The amount of times he's got into a position where he's like one fight away from a number one contender fight, or got into a number one contender fight and lost. And another thing, the problem with Cerrone has been when he has got into these number one contender fights, he's just got destroyed, which has set him back quite far. It's not like when when a fighter gets into a number one contender fight and it's really, really close. And you kind of could see it going another way if things played out differently, so that he would get another shot like sometime soon. It's not really been like that. So yeah, if Cerrone gets it done tonight and goes on to beat Khabib or Poirier, that would be huge. And I'm telling you guys, I know a lot of people watching this are on Ferguson, but I'm telling you, Cerrone, I know I talked a lot about the mental health thing in that breakdown, which made some people think I was putting more weight on that than possibly how these guys match up skill for skill. But I'm telling you guys, even if both these guys show up and perform to their full potential, I think Cerrone's got a great chance of winning, because Ferguson gets rocked, dropped, wobbled, or knocked down against almost everyone. And I am telling you, you cannot afford to do that against Cerrone, because he does not let people recover. Don't care how tough you are. If he hurts you, he goes for the kill. Okay. Tom Moley has asked, any thoughts on the Jojo and Chukagian fight? Yes, mate. I covered that in one of my other videos, go check it out in part 1, 2, 3, or 4. It's in there somewhere, man. Go check it out. I talk about that fight for about 20 minutes. Nathan Cook is hoping to smash it tonight, bro. Hope you hit it out the park. Have a good night, brother. Take care. Same to you, Nate. Thanks, mate. Hope you crush it tonight, mate. James McGuinness has asked, do you think Liverpool will win the league next year and be a force again? Please say no. I don't know, man. Like anything with sport, it really depends on what players Man City bring in. But what I will say about what Liverpool have done this year, I mean, I don't like Liverpool, but they had so many young players in the squad that won the Champions League this year, that the amount of confidence and experience they will have gained from that, you know, it will just galvanise the team. And I think they'll go on to be even better next year. I mean, you know, you look at some of the big performances the young players have put in this year. I just think they're going to be a force next year and over the next five or so years. They're amazing. NYC Chalk Talk has asked, hi Chris, do you have a set financial target for a given year, or do you bet based on opportunities and how you're running as of late? It's really hard. I know I've been saying this for ages, but I've got some videos coming out soon when I get time. I'm going to try and put them out in the next 2 weeks. But I've got some videos coming out soon which kind of shows the difficulty in trying to make money betting on a low liquidity sport like MMA, because of how fast betting sites shut you down when you start to consistently make money. I've got some videos clearly showing that happening, which makes it hard to set financial targets, because I'm not exaggerating, but if it wasn't for betting limitations, I could easily make millions of pounds every year. It wouldn't be difficult. But unfortunately, betting limits put a cap on how much you can make, and you never know when that cap's going to come. So, for example, you could be doing really good, and then your account gets closed, and you have to start at square one. So it's very difficult to set a financial target, because it's largely out of your hands. I mean, picking winners and placing winning bets isn't the most difficult thing about making money in this game. Getting hold of enough betting accounts to consistently win is the most difficult thing. Like I say, I'll be bringing out some content about that. But it's tough to set financial targets, because the bookies will just close you down as soon as you start winning consistently, which is really, really annoying, and why guys like me have to find alternative means of income to give us some security, because you never know when the betting sites are going to pull the plug on you. NYC Chalk Talks also asked, how are you running of late? I'm running amazing so far this year, mate. We are up around 30 units of profit in pre-fight betting, around 70 units of profit in live betting, for a combined total of 100 units of profit in just, 5 months. So doing absolutely phenomenal this year. We've been crushing it. Marco Popadich has asked, any tips for the Golovkin fight? I don't follow boxing, mate. I don't even know who Golovkin is fighting. Extra 43652 has said, since live KSW odds set by the bookies follow the live stream of the event, do you think it would be worth going on a holiday? I'm not too sure what you mean by that, mate. I am not too... Oh, I see what you mean. I see. What you're saying is, okay, sounds like you're one of my elite members. So I can't go on holiday when there's a UFC event, because there's a big delay between any streaming service and televised broadcast fights. So what extra means is, if you watch the UFC events live through ESPN Plus or UFC Fight Pass, there will be like a 30-second to 2-minute delay between what's happening on the live stream and what's happening on the TV broadcast, which means if you're watching the fights on a stream, even if it's an official stream at ESPN Plus or Fight Pass, it's very difficult to live bet, because you're 2 minutes behind what's actually happening. You're 2 minutes behind what the bookies are seeing, where they're setting the odds. In order to keep up with the bookies, you need to watch the fights through the TV, which is what I do when I live bet. But KSW, they set their live odds from the live stream on KSW TV. So I can't travel to different countries when there's a UFC event on, because I need to be home in the UK watching the fights on TV. And across many different parts of the world, they don't actually show the fights on TV, which makes live betting very difficult in other countries, which is another reason why my live betting service is so profitable. That's not a plug, but we absolutely fucking crush it and have done for 5 years. Now, if I go away on holiday, I would have to watch the fights through a live stream. Therefore, I would be delayed as to what's happening, reactive to the odds, and it would be a disaster. I'd probably get crushed. Because KSW set their live odds, or the bookies set their live odds in accordance to the KSW live stream, it means I could travel anywhere in the world, watch the KSW live stream, and live bet it, knowing that what I am seeing on the live stream is exactly what the bookies are seeing where they're setting their odds. So yeah, I would be able to travel if there was just a KSW event on, for sure, man. And Extra has also asked, would you be able to go to Poland to a KSW show and bet live from the event to capitalise on the bookie being behind? Yeah, you could, man. You could. The problem with doing that is... So what Extra is basically saying now, he's built on his initial question. What he's basically saying is the odds that the bookies set in live betting on KSW fights are going to be a few minutes behind what is actually happening in the cage, right? So say, for example, you are watching KSW live in the arena. KSW live odds set by like LV Bet or STS Bet or any of the Polish bookies, they're setting their odds on the live stream, which will be 1 or 2 minutes behind what you're seeing live in the arena. So theoretically, you could go to the KSW event, sit cage side, and if a fight were to end or there was a big momentum swing, you'd be able to bet it at favourable odds because the bookies haven't seen what is about to happen because they're setting their odds from the live stream. However, it is a flawed strategy to make money because UFC betting is a very low liquidity market, and again, this is why I always say betting units are a waste of time because betting units do not take liquidity into account. So UFC betting is low in liquidity. Smaller promotions like KSW are mega low in liquidity. So you would probably have to go to some cost to travel and buy tickets to go to a KSW event, and if you were consistently hitting decent sized winners on like LV Bet and STS Bet on these Polish betting sites that offer live betting on KSW, you would get limited very, very quickly. So it would be a big risk. You could actually find that if you paid to travel to a KSW event, you paid for tickets, you sat cage side, you probably found that if you consistently hit 1 or 2 big winners, they would just shut you down straight away. So it would be a lot of hassle for not potentially a great return. And also quite often the max bet limits on KSW live betting are quite low. Initially they'll offer you big live bet max bet limits. So initially they might offer you, a £2,000 max bet limit on a KSW live bet. But I guarantee if you max bet something and win, they will just instantly limit you like that within one bet, because such a small percentage of their customers will be making those big deposits and making those big bets, so they just won't want you as a customer and they will just limit you straight away. So what you're asking in theory is possible, but in reality it would be hard to make money from it because you will get shut down by the betting sites very, very, very quickly before you probably would have had a chance to make any decent amount of money. So Mark Stone has asked, Mark Stone, big up Mark Stone. Mark Stone's another one of my elite members, so shout out to you, mate. I really appreciate your support, dude. So Mark Stone has asked, I know you don't like betting underdogs, but if the odds... that's not true, mate. That is not true. I have no problem betting underdogs. I bet underdogs frequently. We bet Cerrone as an underdog on this card, so I have no problem betting on underdogs at all. But I'll read the question anyway. We've hit loads of underdog winners this year as well. If you go back and check my results page on my website, you can see we've hit loads and loads and loads of winners. There have been underdogs this year, so I'm not sure why you have got the impression I don't like to bet underdogs, but I will read it anyway. I know you don't like betting underdogs, but if the odds are far enough off, would you ever consider betting pre-fight on a dog like Ansarov, expecting the odds to change That's not really a question, dude. I've no problem betting underdogs. So I would bet on any fighter where I see value, irrespective of what the odds are, which is the reason why I've bet Cerrone this week as an underdog. Rona Project has asked, do you drink during the fights? Definitely not. That could be an expensive mistake. Wayne Duggar has asked, I took Ivanov and Ty to go the distance at 110 before your video. Should I go back and take Ivanov by decision or stick with what I've got? What were the odds on Ivanov by decision? Because remember, man, remember, we're looking for big payoffs, okay? So the odds on fight goes to decision is rubbish. Remember, these are heavyweights, yeah? So a very large percentage of heavyweight fights end inside the distance. Tuivasa is very aggressive. He hits very hard. He also has a very low-level ground game. He could slip on a banana skin, get himself into trouble on the ground, like he did against JDS. So if you're betting on the fight to go to the decision at 1.95, or I'm guessing you got plus 110, it might be minus 110, plus 110. I can't quite tell from your question, but either way, not that much of a difference. So if we put those odds in, 2.10, that gives an implied probability of 48%. There's just no value there because there's a very, very high probability that a heavyweight fight will end inside the distance. So I just don't see the point in betting that at all. There's just no value there. I mean, it can win. I do think this fight goes the distance, but definitely don't feel confident in it. Whereas with the odds on Ivanov to win by decision, the payoff's just way better. Where is it? Ivanov to win by decision. Where are you? Yeah, the payoff's just way better, so I would take that, but neither bet is very good. You're not putting your money in a strong position either way. So Mark Stone has asked, when the fight is more competitive, looking than people thought it would be, like you said, Ansarov stuffs a few takedowns, and the live betting odds change, and you can then bet Suarez at a better price and just lock in guaranteed profit. Mate, guys, what I would say about this game is just don't try and overcomplicate things. Like, all these things work, right? Like, yeah, you can fly to Poland, you can go to a KSW event, you can fucking, try and earn a few hundred or a few thousand getting one up on the bookies, but you're going to get shut down. You can try and mess around with the odds and predict odds movement and predict line movement to just lock in guaranteed profit and hedges and all that shit. I just can't be bothered with any of it. At the end of the day, if you go on my website, my record dates back 5 years, been consistently making money over that time, and my biggest piece of advice is just do not complicate things. Forget props, forget parlays and accumulators, forget complicated hedging strategies, forget trying to get one up on the bookies by actually going to live events. Forget all that shit and just focus on putting your money in strong positions. And if you consistently put your money in strong positions, you will make money. Don't try and get too cute. Don't try and overcomplicate things. Stick to the basics. Consistently put your money in strong positions and you will make money. You don't need to make it any more complicated than that. I would just really recommend that don't overcomplicate things. There's just no point. The more variables and the more things you have to consider, the more you'll just tie yourself up in knots, make loads of mistakes, and ultimately probably just end up floating around break even. Guess what I'm saying is, the way I do things at the moment is pretty damn effective. I consistently make money, and if it's not broke, I won't fix it, because it's not easy to make money betting on any sport. So when you kind of figure stuff out, you should just stick to what works, because if you try and change it in any way, there are no guarantees that it'll pay off. If it's not broke, don't fix it. 120 Naldo was asked, do you think there's any chance Nina Ansarov survives to a decision? Yeah, I do for sure. Ansarov's very tough. She could definitely survive to a decision. Don't give Ansarov much of a chance of winning at all, because like I say, when she does get taken down, she's very weak off her back. Doesn't really know how to work her way back to her feet. Just accepts being on the bottom, but she's tough enough to survive to a decision. Decent level of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, very tough. Won't be easy for Suarez to get her out of there, although Nina does give her back up a lot, which does put her at big risk of being submitted. Zelda has asked, do you think Ngannou to KO JDS in round 1 is a good bet? Let's look at the odds, man. Let's look at the odds. So, mate, I don't know. There's no odds, so I can't answer your question. The props aren't out yet. The props will usually be released for those kind of bets a day or two before the event. So, I can't answer your question yet, Zelda. It depends on the odds, man. Ask me closer to the time, though. I do think it's more likely Ngannou wins by knockout. Matthew S. has asked... Oops, I've lost my place. No, the comments have gone crazy again. Where were we? Oh, no. Alright, I've got it back. So Zelda has asked... do you think... No, sorry, Matthew S. has asked... what's the best parlay bet in your opinion? I'm doing Keita and Peter Yan. Right, so the way I approach parlays is, again, you will only win a very small percentage of parlays. So I like to treat parlays like prop bets, where I'm not interested in a 2 or 3 leg parlay. Doesn't fucking interest me at all. I want to go big or go home, take on loads of risk for loads of reward. And the type of parlays I would recommend won't win very often, but when they do win, they win big. And it's exactly like my philosophy for prop bets. I'm not interested in betting these stupid little prop bets like Peter Yan to win by decision or Shevchenko to win by decision. The odds are too short. I want to go for the high risk, high reward props like Bevon Lewis to win by submission. So if I was going to go for a parlay on this card, I would want it to be a really, really juicy multi-leg parlay. So I would go for Moraes, Cerrone, Suarez, Keita, Shevchenko, Yan, Kowalkiewicz, Yaun and Yan, that's 8, Bevon Lewis, 9, Chookagian, 10. I would do a 10-leg parlay. Chookagian, Lewis, Yan, Kowalkiewicz, Yan, Shevchenko, Keita, Suarez, Cerrone, Moraes. And I don't know what the payoff would be, but I'm guessing it would be bloody big. I would just go for that. I'm not interested in these silly little parlays because they won't be profitable long term. But if you go for the big boy ones like that, that is the way that you could possibly make a long-term profit, because you'd only have to hit 1 or 2 a year to be in profit, and that's the kind of strategy you should be using on these kind of bets where there's loads of risk, you want loads of reward. Gabriel Cote has asked, how do you see Khabib Poirier going off the top of your head? I definitely think Poirier is the most dangerous opponent Khabib's faced so far, because we know Poirier is a very high level on the ground and he's a decent wrestler himself, and he's also got the one punch knockout power to kill Khabib dead. You know, we saw in the Iaquinta fight that Iaquinta was able to survive on the ground, make Khabib work very hard, and then later in the fight, Khabib started to slow down a little bit, and Iaquinta started to have a lot more success with his striking. Difference is Poirier could potentially knock Khabib out if given those same opportunities, whereas Iaquinta doesn't really have too much power in his hands, but then again, Iaquinta's cardio is legendary, and I would expect Poirier to slow down quite a bit if he'd been carrying Khabib's wet blanket weight for 3 or 4 rounds. So tough fight to call. I do think Poirier has got the best chance of winning out of anyone Khabib's faced over the last few years, though. But I mean, Khabib probably wet blankets him to a decision win. Get Up Them Steps has asked, if you ever got into a fight, do you think your extensive knowledge of MMA would help you? Yes, man, 100%. Definitely knowing about MMA helps you fight 100%, because when you watch like videos of like football hooligans or like bar fights, or like when you watch, like, you just watch on social media then you fights, people literally just like flailing arms, like, if you watch MMA, that's like you're playing roulette. Like, anything can happen when you're just flailing arms. So 100%, man. If you know MMA, duck under, take that fool down, get the mount or try and take their back and choke them out. So yeah, definitely, man. You don't need to be big and tough, but knowing a little bit about MMA will help you a lot. Like, let's be real. The two easiest paths to victory in MMA are mounting your opponent and beating their face in, or taking their back and choking them out. And if you're fighting someone that has no idea how to defend those two techniques, all day, don't just stand there flailing your arms around. Take them down. 100%, man. Mo Siziak has asked, do you think Ngannou could beat John Jones? Yes, I do, definitely. I think Ngannou could beat anyone. Vicious knockout power. He is a beast. 100%, mate. Jared Smith has asked, do you think Askren will be ridiculed to no end if Masvidal beats him? I think that people think Askren's a lot better than he is, and I think there's a high chance he'll get found out against Masvidal. Okay. KWYATJO has asked, it seems like opinion is a big part of finding value. How do you differentiate between who you really think will win and a valuable position? That's a good question, man. I think being humble is a big part of it. Like, I know I probably don't come across as the most humble person, but I've got to try and put my opinions across so that people will take them seriously. I can't be really timid. I've got to give strong opinions. But what I will say is, behind the scenes, there's a lot of thought that goes into the information I give you. I'm not like scanning through Cerrone Ferguson and like scanning through it for half an hour and then talking shit in front of a camera. Like, I put about 4 or 5 hours of research into at least 2 or 3 hours of research into every single fight that I talk about. Like, I'm not bullshitting you. So I think being humble is a big part of being successful at making money from betting on MMA, because you've really got to consider every possible way that a fight could play out, and you have got to then be able to establish what is likely and what isn't, what factors may play a big part in the fight and what factors may not, how much weight do you put on those factors. You can't be one of these guys that's like, Marlon Moraes is going to knock Cejudo out, Donald Cerrone is going to drown in Ferguson's pressure. You know, you can't be one of those guys. You cannot work in absolutes. You've got to be really open-minded. So being open-minded and humble is a big part of it, because if Donald Cerrone comes out in round 1 against Ferguson, gets overwhelmed with pressure and TKO'd in like 2 minutes, it will not surprise me at all. Will absolutely not surprise me. It could definitely happen. And getting comfortable with that is a big deal. I guess it's like preparing yourself for the worst, innit? If you know something might happen, it's not as bad. So, for example, if you know you have to pay taxes at the end of the year, it sucks when you have to write that check for 20 grand, but it is what it is. You knew it was coming, you knew you had to pay taxes. Whereas if you get like a letter from the government coming through your front door saying, you owe us 20 grand in taxes, pay now or we're putting you in jail next week and shutting your business down, that's a lot more painful, yeah? So it's just important to like be open-minded. That's a terrible example, but be open-minded, you know, look at all scenarios. Yeah, that's pretty much it, man. And then if you're open-minded, what I'm trying to say is, as a better example, right? So if you look at the Cerrone versus Ferguson fight, and I keep using this as example because it's a fight where everyone's familiar with both these guys and everyone's got strong opinions. I guess what I would say is, you can be sure you're putting your money in a strong position if you spend a lot of time doing research, lay all possibilities out on the table, and then if you consider what the most likely outcomes are. So, for example, if I look at this fight, okay, I would look at this fight. This is how my brain works on a fight like this. So, do we know if Tony Ferguson's mental health issues will have an impact on him on fight night? No, we don't. But is it possible it will have a big effect on how he performs? Yes, it is. So it's a possibility. So we put it in the box of, could have a negative impact on Ferguson. Not guaranteed, but it might. Ferguson had major reconstructive knee surgery 12 months ago. Could that have an impact on Ferguson's performance? Yes, it could. It might not, but it might. It's there. Mental health, knee injury. Okay. Tony Ferguson gets rocked, dropped, wobbled, knocked down in every fight. Will he get knocked down by Cerrone? We don't know. But Cerrone is very, very dangerous standing, matrix-style combinations. So that's a possibility, okay? Next thing. Is Cerrone a better grappler than Ferguson? Well, yes, he is. So that's another thing you put on the table. Can Donald Cerrone win this fight if both guys show up and perform to their full potential? Well, Tony Ferguson can't take Cerrone down, can't really do anything to him on the ground, and Ferguson has got really bad striking defense. If he stays standing, there's a high probability that Cerrone will pick him apart and win the stand-up fight. So that's another box. Now, how can Cerrone struggle in this fight? Well, he can start slow and get outpointed to a decision. That's on the table. He can drown under the pressure of Ferguson. That's on the table. Ferguson could completely alpha him, turn him into a madman, put him in a defensive shell, and just basically completely break him mentally and get him out there probably sometime in the second round like he did with Pettis. That's on the table. So we look at all the things on the table now, and there's a lot to suggest Cerrone's got a good chance of winning. Mental health issues, knee injury, poor striking defense, gets rock dropped and wobbled easily. Second best in grappling, second best in striking. That's a lot in favour of Cerrone. Then we look at Ferguson. Can break Cerrone mentally because he's incredibly tough. He can start very fast and outwork Cerrone because Cerrone starts slow, and he can break Cerrone with pressure. So there's three things. So there's a hell of a lot of stuff in Cerrone's favour. Not all of it's confirmed, but it's on the table. It's a possibility. And then a few things in Ferguson's favour. And then we look at the odds. So if we evaluated the fight in that capacity and Cerrone was the favourite, you would be like, well, there are some significant risk factors which suggest Ferguson will win this fight, so we can't touch Cerrone as the favourite because there's too much risk there. But when you've got all these things in favour of Cerrone winning, and then you see him as the underdog, a moderate underdog, at odds of 2.45, which is what I bet him at for an implied probability of 41%, it's just a no-brainer. It is an obvious bet. So I think having that open-minded way of evaluating how fights will play out will help you consistently put your money in strong positions, because I don't know if Cerrone will win. Like I've established, there is a significant chance Ferguson will win. But if you use this model to evaluate all fights and you consistently get your money in the strongest position, which I strongly feel Cerrone is, all things considered, over time you will make money. I cannot be any clearer than telling you I don't give a fuck about what happens in this fight. I don't care who wins between Donald Cerrone and Tony Ferguson. I couldn't give a fuck who wins. Please understand that. It is one bet that I will place in about 500 bets in this 12-month calendar year. One bet out of 500. I don't care if Cerrone loses. All I care about is consistently putting my money in these strong positions, because I know if I keep putting my money in these strong positions over 12 months, I'll win a hell of a lot more than I lose. And that's why I don't get super precious about individual fighters. I just don't care. I just want to consistently put my money in strong positions, and there is nothing anyone can tell me about this fight which will make me believe that Cerrone isn't a strong bet. You have to have conviction in your decisions, all things considered, and I'm sure I've left some stuff out, like Cerrone having a brutal weight cut, Cerrone potentially having a staph infection, which someone mentioned in the comments, which I didn't know about. But yeah, you know what I'm saying. That's just a rough example. It's just a rough example of how I break down fights and how I can personally be sure I've put my money in a strong position, because I've considered all possibilities and I've assigned probabilities and kind of done a little risk assessment on all possibilities. So that's basically it. Terminator 646747 asked, would you ever do live betting on the WWE? Man, I didn't even know you could live bet WWE. That's interesting. Let me know if you can live bet WWE. I didn't even think that was a thing. So Saber Kicks has asked thoughts on our betting. I think our betting is a complete waste of time. Like I said, I have got a way of making money. It works for me. I don't want to overcomplicate things and try and get cute. So Terminator has then asked, if the bookies approach you with a 7-figure per year job to set their odds, would you sell out? Yes, Terminator, 100% I would sell out. I would definitely sell out because it's very, very hard to make money betting on MMA because it's a low liquidity market and it's just fucking annoying. Like, it's just, I can't tell you how demoralizing it is to have a skill that you can't fully use. There's a ceiling on it because they limit the amount of money you can win by closing you down. You just get burnt out after a while. The reason why I set this YouTube channel up is just because I've had enough of being shut down by betting sites. The reason why I sell subscriptions on my website is because I've had enough of being shut down by betting sites, and I want to draw attention to it and create a big audience to try and shed some light on the fact that bookies are despicable, horrible beasts. They've got no ethics. So 7 figures, I'd never be able to win millions per year. I'd never be able to earn 7 figures per year from betting on MMA because liquidity is too low. So yeah, it would be an absolute no-brainer, 100%. But I don't think that's going to happen. So 07768 has asked, if World War III took place and the bookmakers put odds on it, would you bet World War III? No, mate, I would be getting as much money as I could to build a massive underground bunker somewhere like that geezer did in that Cloverfield film with John, was it John? I can't remember the dude's name, but yeah, no, I'd be building a giant underground bunker, man. Forget placing bets. So a Shaggy Dog has asked, was the Liverpool-Tottenham game the worst Champions League final of all time? It's the worst one I can remember in a while, man. The Iceberg that sunk the Titanic's asked, do you think Khabib could go down as the GOAT if he defends his belt a few more times? Yeah, I definitely think Khabib could go down as the GOAT, man. No doubt about it. 100%. Definitely, mate. He's a beast. So Zelda's asked, if my unit size is $200, do you think I should put a $5 on every prop bet you recommend? Not on this event, mate. On future events, yes. But the props on this event are absolutely terrible. So I would not start tonight. It's a bad night to start. You'd probably take a big loss if you tail these props tonight. Johan Liebert has said, you're in Game of Thrones. The king has asked you to show your wiener. Do you approach flaccid or fully erect? Which king, bro? Which king? You've got to. Do you mean the Night King? Which king? Because which king, man? Are we talking Joffrey? Are we talking? What was his brother's name? I'm gonna keep giving away spoilers, but yeah, what king, man? Because the queens were really ruling the 7 kingdoms. And I would definitely be an erect walking up to Daenerys or Cersei. Cersei was looking hot during that atonement walk. Holy shit, she was bodied up. I'm just giving away spoilers. I need to stop talking about Game of Thrones. Ben Mooney has asked, do you know any live betting sites in Australia? Yes, mate. I can't recommend specific websites for you to live bet in Australia, but there are a lot of Australian members on my website. If you go to MMABettingTips.com/register, you can sign up for a free account, then go to the community tab in the nav bar, go down to chat room, then public chat room, and just ask some people in the chat room what are the best sites for live betting on MMA in Australia. I've got loads of members from Australia. They'll be able to help you. Mad Music has asked, I've heard you say Dan Hardy is one of the few famous talking heads in MMA who knows what he's talking about. Who's the worst? Is it Luke Thomas? I don't watch Luke Thomas, to be honest, mate. I do not watch Luke Thomas. I would say I don't want to fire any shots. This is not a criticism of how much this person knows about MMA. This is not a criticism of how... this is not a criticism about this person at all. It is definitely not a criticism. But I spend 4 or 5 hours researching every single fight. So I know when someone's bullshitting and when when they've done their homework. I can see right through it. I can tell by the way someone's talking about a fight if they've done their homework or if they're bullshitting. And Brendan Schaub doesn't do his homework at all. He just makes shit up off the top of his head from hazy memories. I'm not gonna say he doesn't know anything about MMA. I'm sure he knows a lot about MMA. I'm sure he's very smart. I love his podcast. I listen to all his podcasts. I love him. He's a great guy. But let's be real, man. He's buying Porsche GT3 RSs and he's buying Ferraris. He is doing comedy tours all over the world. He is producing comedy specials. He's balling out of control and living a great life. Do you really think he has time to put in-depth research into MMA fights? I could tell you right now, if I was driving around in a Porsche GT3 RS or a Ferrari, I would definitely not be sat here at my desk spending 40 hours a week researching fights. There's no way I would be doing that. So Brendan Schaub's the worst, just because I can tell he doesn't do his homework and he kind of just works from hazy memories and makes stuff up on the spot. So he's the worst, but I think he's a great guy. Can't hate on him. At the end of the day, he's got a big audience. People want to hear his opinion on stuff, but I wouldn't value his opinion just because he doesn't put the work in, but that doesn't mean he's not absolutely crushing it. I think he's a really good dude. Dave Love Shoes has asked, if you only laid one bet this week, what would it be? It would be Calvin Kattar, mate. I think he dominates Ricardo Lamas. Andrea Franceschina has asked, do you currently invest in crypto? Do you day trade or are you a value investor? Is there any way to see your opinions on crypto investing other than your Twitter? So, good question, Andrea. So, yes, I do invest in crypto. I'm very passionate about crypto. I've got quite a lot of money in crypto. I'm adding more money every month. I day trade and I'm a value investor. Actually, I just this past week bought access to a trading algorithm which gives buy and sell signals. So I've still got to do a little bit of work and completing the training course which comes along this algorithm. But it costs a lot of money and I am very optimistic that it will help me make a hell of a lot more money in the future. So yes, I am... I'm big on crypto. I do day trade. I do long invest as well. But I've just bought access to an algorithm which I think is really going to help me crush it during the next bull run. And I don't give my opinions out on crypto anywhere at the moment, but I will be starting to produce crypto videos for this channel. So I've got 3 videos planned that I'm going to try and get out in the next few weeks. The first video I want to talk about the Litecoin halving. The second video I want to talk about 5 reasons why you should seriously consider buying Ripple before the next big run. I know Ripple is quite a divisive crypto, but that's one of the reasons why I think it's worth a buy. But more on that in the other video. And I'm also going to be reviewing a hyped project called Phantom. But yeah, I'll be bringing out some crypto content. I'm really spending a lot of time at the moment learning to trade. I've bought access to like quite an expensive trading course that I'm working my way through, but it's going to take hundreds of hours to complete that course. And like the guy that asked me earlier on if I would take 7 figures to set betting odds for a betting site, the reason why I would do that and the reason why I'm so serious on crypto at the moment is because I've reached a point in MMA betting where I can't earn any more from MMA betting. It's kind of like... you build your money up to a certain point and then you can't earn any more because you've hit a ceiling. You can't go any higher because the max bet limits are what they are. So I can't grow anymore. So I want to find other ways to grow. That's why I'm getting into crypto, learning to trade. That's why I'm big on investment. Spending a lot of time. I'm not spending a lot of time on that at the moment, to be honest. I'm only spending a few hours a week learning to trade because MMA is my main focus. But when we've got 2 weeks off now, I'll spend quite a bit of time going through these training courses trying to learn. Just gonna find some more questions, guys. So Jason McGarrity has said there was a red mark on Cowboy's chest, but it's gone by the next day, so I don't think it was staph. Yeah, if it was staph, it definitely wouldn't disappear within one day. It would just get bigger and worse. Okay. Giggsy has asked, do you know like a bet on Bevan Lewis at 1.57? No, mate. So I spoke a little bit about this in the part 4 video. So let me just take another quick drink. Although his odds of him are up to 1.65 on 5 dimes. Let me just take a quick break and refresh this so we know we're getting the latest odds. Right. Okay, where are we? Right. So Bevan Lewis. Bevan Lewis, when I initially researched him earlier on in the week, at one point he was around about 1.40, which was minus 250, which carried an implied probability of 71%. And that was a reluctant pass. I really liked him in that fight. And obviously, when his odds have improved, they've improved quite a lot. Now up to an average of about 1.60, which is minus 167 for an implied probability of 63%. So the odds have improved. I went back and researched this fight a second time yesterday. But the one thing that does make me nervous about this fight is that I noticed that Bevan Lewis is very good when he's allowed to dictate the pace, but he looks a little bit nervous when his opponents turn the tables on him and start to be the aggressor. So when he's the aggressor and his opponent enables him to dictate the pace, he's very, very good, very, very, very good. Actually, very technical. But in his fight against Uriah Hall, towards the end of the second round, Uriah Hall started to get more aggressive and force Bevan Lewis to fight on the back foot and counter strike, and Bevan Lewis was nowhere near as effective. He started to look very, very nervous, started to eat a lot more shots, and obviously it's a completely different skill fighting backwards to being able to control the pace. And then I went back and watched his fight against Elias Urbina, and the same thing happened. Urbina couldn't sustain the pressure, which meant that Bevan Lewis was able to continue to dictate the pace. But there were flashes in that fight which suggested that Bevan Lewis may struggle under pressure. Now, Darren Stewart's not a high-pressure fighter, but he is very aggressive and he does hit very hard. So I just think it's a little bit too early to bet on Bevan Lewis at underdog odds, because Darren Stewart does occasionally throw caution to the wind and come forward very aggressively, and we don't know yet how Bevan Lewis is going to react to that. So I'm going to pass. One of the main reasons why I'm going to pass as well is I spoke about this a little bit in the part 4 video, but my strategy for making money on betting on MMA is to use compound interest to grow my money over a long period of time. And the best way to grow your money through compound interest is to not lose, just to consistently bank in small profits. So over time, you're gradually betting larger amounts and it snowballs and accelerates. That's what works for me. Now, I've got 3 bets for this event. I've got Marlon Moraes, Donald Cerrone, and Calvin Kattar. And any one of those 3 guys could lose. But I believe there's a very, very strong chance that if you bet those 3 fighters, you will end up in profit. And I don't mean if you put them in a parlay. I mean, if you bet each of those fighters individually, I believe there's a very, very good chance that you'll make a profit. And all I'm focused on when I'm betting on MMA is banking a profit. So I bank a profit today, and on the next event, the amount I can bet is slightly greater because I have more money in the pot to be able to bet. Now, of course, that theory gets complicated because of betting account limitations, but that's the basic principle, okay? Now, I'm pretty sure Kattar, Cerrone and Moraes are going to return me a profit. I don't know which one of these fighters are going to win. Some of them can lose. You know, it's possible they all lose, but I'm pretty confident I'll get a profit. If I start to introduce riskier bets into my bets for tonight, so for example, I've been very tempted to bet on Bevan Lewis, Yaonan Yan, Karolina Kowalkiewicz, Pedro Munoz and Blagoy Ivanov. I've been tempted to bet all 5 of those fighters. But there's a chance all 5 of those fighters lose, or a significant percentage of those lose. I'm very confident that I will make an overall profit out of these 3 bets. You know, I might go 2-1. Hopefully I clean sweep the board, but I'm pretty confident I'll make a profit. Whereas I have absolutely no idea how many of those 5 fighters would win, which introduced the possibility for taking a loss tonight if I were to bet any one of those 5 fighters. So that's why I would just prefer to pass on all 5 of them and just stick to the really, really strong positions in Moraes, Cerrone, and Keita, because I believe that those 3 bets, I'm putting my money in strong positions. I believe that those other 5 bets I just mentioned are weaker positions. So that's the reason why I'm going to pass. So Angel A has asked, what do you think about Cormier versus Miocic odds? I think Cormier's odds look good. Let us take a look. Yeah, I'm not sure, man. I need to research this fight before I really have a strong opinion on it. What I would say is that Father Time catches up with everyone, and Cormier is now 40 years old, and at that age, Father Time can creep up on you quickly and ruthlessly out of nowhere. And I expect sometime within the next year to 2 years, I expect Cormier to show up and look like an absolute shadow of himself. And it could be the night that it happens. So, yeah, I'd have to research it, but Cormier's a risk betting him at this stage in his career. But I need to research it. So Andy Traff has asked, hey Chris, just stumbled across your vids for the first time today and checked out your website. Do you advise on bankroll management or intend to for longevity in becoming the pro gambler? Yeah, man. Use compound interest. Just learn compound interest. Don't use betting units. I think betting units are a waste of time. Your journey to getting where you want to be will just be a slow and arduous one if you use betting units. So read investment books, learn how compound interest works, and take a compound interest approach to betting, and you will as long as you're maintaining a win rate of about 60 to 70%, you'll do good. Easier said than done, but compound interest is the formula for success. Angry Posh Gamer has asked, how do you stop gambling when you've tried all the help that is available? Do you know what, mate? I've never had a problem with gambling just because I hate losing money. Like I've always said, I'm the guy that I've only been to a casino twice in my life. I've never bet on any like slot machines or anything in like bars or clubs. I will only ever bet if I do a lot of research. I can't think of anything worse than placing a bet that is completely going to be determined by luck. And if you bet when you haven't done research, or if you bet on like casino-based games and stuff, that's just going to come down to luck. So honestly, mate, I don't really know what advice to give. I mean, I would just say that like if you are struggling with gambling, if gambling's a bit of a problem, I would just say that just know that it takes me 40 to 50 hours of work every week doing a living from gambling. Like it's a full-time job. It's incredibly hard, and it's taken like 15 years of experience to get to that point. If you aren't putting in that level of work, you're probably going to lose long term, as brutal as that sounds. So I would say try and accept that and just put your energy into something way more positive. Like just put your energy into something where you can crush and that it won't cause you money. Like instead of gambling, just like try and learn a new skill or something, man. I don't know, it's probably terrible advice, but I just think that unless you're putting an incredible amount of work into this, you'll probably lose. So just understand that and just don't even bother betting in the first place. It's probably terrible advice, so man, I'm really sorry. I don't know what to say. It's just terrible advice. Probably not the best person to ask for that, because I've always hated losing, so I've never... I always put a lot of thought into every bet, I guess, so I've never really struggled with that too much. It just makes me sound like a dick, but it is the truth. I guess I've just got an obsessive personality, so like I agonize over every bet I place. Like I spent fucking hours and hours and hours even thinking about bets I didn't place this week because I'm mental. I don't know, man. I don't know. Bob Bobson has asked, have you ever considered placing bets in person to get past the betting limits? Yes, this is something I do, man. But unfortunately, if you are trying to bet big amounts in betting shops, a lot of them will still not take your bets. They'll want to phone through the head office to speak to a trader to see if you can place the bet. And a lot of the time, if you're trying to bet a lot of money, you get rejected. Of course, the beauty of living in the UK is there are betting shops everywhere, so you can travel around different betting shops and place smaller amounts in lots of different shops. Within my house, where I live, within probably a 20-mile radius, there's hundreds of betting shops. But it's just not a life I enjoy, man. I just don't enjoy it. I just don't enjoy having to try and game the system. I just don't enjoy it at all. It's not fun. It's not nice to try and have to work your way around situations. If I've got the skills to make money betting, I should just be able to sit at my computer and place bets like everyone else. I shouldn't have to travel around 100 different betting shops, betting £50 here, £100 there, just to get a few thousand down. It's a load of bollocks, man. So yeah, it is something I have done in the past. Don't do it so much anymore. Yeah, it's a possibility, man. Quincy Pignola's asked, what do you think of online blackjack on Bovada being rigged? I didn't know it was rigged, mate, but it wouldn't surprise me. You can't win casino games anyway, so they're all rigged. Nathan Cook has asked, what's your opinion on Cejudo versus Moraes to be fight of the night at 4-1? Hate that bet, mate. Definitely don't like that. I don't think that it will be fight of the night because Moraes is quite a passive striker. He's not that wild and reckless. A lot of his fights are contested in kickboxing range. If the fight's not in kickboxing range, with it being more of a chess match, it will mean that Cejudo has taken him down. You're not going to get a wild back and forth war in the Cejudo versus Moraes fight because I think as soon as they start exchanging, Cejudo will get knocked out. He can't live with Moraes in that type of fight, so I definitely don't see it being fight of the night. If you want candidates for fight of the night, obviously the obvious one is Cerrone versus Ferguson. And that's it. Why complicate it? Cerrone Ferguson. And Peter Yan versus Jimmy Rivera could be a war as well, just because Peter Yan forces his opponents to engage, and Jimmy Rivera is pretty tough. So yeah, those two, I think, mate. Real Realista said you need to look at Yan by KO a bit more. Don't think I do, man. I mean, if we look at it, Yan to win by knockout or TKO is only 2.74. The odds are just rubbish. The odds are just absolutely rubbish. They're just not the type of odds I look for in a prop. I want much better than that. Okay, so Andrea Francescina has asked, if you have a bankroll of £200, how would you split the bets on this fight for Cerrone, Moraes and Keita? Okay, so what I would do, and this will go against every single thing you've ever read on the internet that talks about bankroll management, and they will talk about bankroll management and units and all that bullshit, but I think units are a waste of time, like I say. So if you have £200, so the important thing about the way I recommend betting is that you never want too much of your money at risk at any one time. So the reason why people use betting units and the 1% to 1 unit rule is so that kind of method ensures that you never have too much of your money at risk at any one time, which means if you were to lose all of those bets, it would only put, if you were to lose all your bets on a card by using the 1 unit to 1% rule, unless you had an enormous amount of units at stake at any one time, your bankroll's not in too much danger of taking a significant hit. But what I would prefer to do, from my perspective, is to treat your money like an investment fund. That's personally how I do things. So if you've got £200 in an investment fund, you would look at what is a safe percentage of my money to put at risk. And if I lose all of it, will I be able to recover? Okay? So I would look at that. And the way I would do it is, if you've got £200, if you were to lose 20% of that £200, so if we look at it, 20 divided by, if we put it 20 divided by 5 is 40, which is 20%, okay? So if you were to lose 20% of your bankroll, you would be left with 160. Another decent chunk of money, okay? 20% is a decent enough amount of money where you can start to grow your pot of 200, but not a big enough amount of money that if you lose it all, you're at risk of losing everything. You're playing within safe percentage parameters. So what I would do, I would put 20% of my money at stake per event, and I would split the money up in accordance with confidence levels. So if you've got £40 for this event, I would say a smart thing to do would be to bet £10 on Cerrone, because we're not that confident, and £15 on, you know what, let's do it different. Instead of committing £40, which would be 20% of your money, let's go to 25%, which will give you 50 to play with, which is a better number for 3 pre-fight bets. What I would do is I would bet 10 on Cerrone, and I would bet 20 on Moraes and 20 on Keita. Now, let's go a bit deeper with this. Say, for example, you lose all these bets, and your bankroll is now down to £150. When we move on to next week's card, say, for example, we identify another 3 bets, another 3 similar bets. So we want to go for Moicano, we want to go for Barberena, and a decent underdog, which would be Montana De La Rosa. I'm not recommending those fighters. They're just an example. Say you want those 3 fighters. We are working in percentages, because remember, everything we're doing is based on compound interest. So we're not betting another £50 here, because if we lost, that would be half our money gone in just 2 weeks. That is absolutely crazy, but it's okay to bet the same percentages. So then if we look at it, if we had 150, we divide that by 4, that comes to 37.50. So now what we would do, if we were to lose everything, I put the wrong number in. But if we were to lose everything, we'd have about 112 left, which would be a big dent to our initial bankroll. But we'd have 37.50 to play with on these 3 bets we'd have to divide out for this card. But it flips the other way. So by constantly adjusting these percentages, it will take you a very long time to lose all your money, because you are constantly adjusting your percentages, and you might put a huge dent in your bankroll and have to grind your way back up, but it will take you a very long time to lose your money because you're constantly adjusting things. And remember as well, I won't often have 3 bets for an event. I don't think I've had 3 bets for a UFC event since I started this channel. The majority of the time I've got like 1 bet. So in that instance, you wouldn't be putting 25% of your money on 1 bet. You'd probably be putting like 5 or 10% of your money. Do you see what I mean? So it wouldn't even be 37.50 at risk. It would probably be 10 or 15 at risk. It's a complex topic, and I know I'm not doing a good job of explaining it, but the point I'm trying to make is, when you are losing using this strategy, it takes you a long time to lose because you're adjusting the numbers based on the percentages. And when you're winning, it helps you start to accelerate your profits in a great way. Because say, for example, you start with 200, okay? And after all the bets tonight, you were to end up with £40 profit. For next week's bets then, you would have 240 in the bank. So when you commit 20% to next week's bets, instead of it being 20% of 200, it's now 25% of 200 is 25% of 240, which is now 60, which means you've got more money to play with, and that's when your bankroll will start to snowball. And this is why I preach so hard the beauty of maintaining a high win rate. You've got people online that brag about having ROIs of 30%, and it doesn't mean anything, because when you look at their win rate is like 30 to 50%. So if your win rate is 30 to 50% and you're using a compound interest method to grow your money, you're taking a lot of losing nights, which means your money is going like that, which means it takes you way longer to work your way back up. So ROI is a useless metric. What you should focus on is win rate, because the more consecutive wins you can put together, the faster you can compound your money. So if you are very serious about betting, use this method that I've just described. It helped me to literally turn like £200 into like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of pounds. So sorry, my wife has just come home. But I would definitely recommend using that strategy. You won't really find any people online talking about that. It does go away. It does go against traditional recommendations, but it's always the same. In anything in life, you have heard the expression, when everyone else is moving right, you move left. And in order to have an extreme amount of success in everything, you often have to look at something in a different way and do things in a way that no one else is doing. And I've never met anyone that is doing good in life using the 1% to 1 unit strategy. It doesn't work for me. I've never met anyone it's actually worked for. People may say that they make money using that strategy, but they're not living good. They're not living good. I've never found anyone living good using that strategy. So stick to compound interest. If you read any investment book, compound interest is the core principle of any investment book, and it works very, very well for gambling too. Yes, it will occasionally lead to big swings in your bankroll, but if you are correctly adjusting the percentages for every single event and not committing too much of a percentage of your bankroll on any particular event, you will make money long term. The asterisk next to that is that you will only make money with this method if you're able to maintain a high win rate. 65% at least is what you need to be hitting. If you don't have a high win rate, you'll get wrecked. Now, this is not a plug. This is not a plug by any means, but obviously I do maintain a high win rate. My ROI isn't the best because I focus more on win rate and consistently grinding out winning nights. I'm not the kind of guy that is going to give you a 5-leg winning parlay accumulator. I'm not the kind of guy that's going to give you an outlandishly big prop bet win to make my ROI look nice and juicy, because the reality is prop bets are for noobs. Because liquidity is very, very low on prop bets. So I'm never going to bullshit you guys in going, I am recommending a 5-unit bet on Marlon Moraes to win in round 4 at 13.5. I am going to recommend that. Let's do that calculation. So I am recommending on my official third-party tracked record 5 units on Marlon Moraes to win at 13.5. Oh, look, I've made 62 units profit. I've made loads of money. My ROI is through the roof. I am the most profitable bettor in the world. And what they don't tell you is the maximum bet limit on Marlon Moraes to win in round 4 will probably be like $10. So all this is bollocks. So someone will see me with a much lower ROI because I only focus on money line bets and think I earn less than a joker that pumps out bets like this, because the reality is people don't take liquidity into account. And that was another bit of a tangent, but liquidity, very important. And it amuses me when I see guys with an ROI of 30-40% bragging to people when they are literally hitting things with $10 max bet limits. They just need to get out of my face. They're total noobs. Right, next question. Let's see what else we got here. Marty Duck has asked, when the betting site will shut you down, do you mean they limit your bet size? Yes, mate, that is what I mean. Although, some sites have just straight up started closing accounts now. See any more questions? 26 Johnny has asked also, what do you think about Cowboy by Sub at 11.0? Yeah, Cowboy by Sub is interesting, man. Just because when he hurts people, he instinctively jumps on them to go for a finish on the ground. And, Ferguson could easily end up mounted, being forced to give his back up, or could be rocked or wobbled on the ground, and Cerrone could jump on a choke. So yeah, Cerrone by submission's a real possibility. Otto Matek has said, I don't think I is dead here. I think the line is super wide. Yeah, I agree with you, man. I think Shevchenko's got some weaknesses, and I don't actually think I can exploit them. But Shevchenko's definitely not as good as people think she is. Quincy Pignola has said Ivanov lost his last fight to Rothwell. So I think people are really confused as to how to score MMA fights. So Ivanov versus Rothwell was the best example of the new scoring affecting the way that fights need to be scored. So the Ivanov versus Rothwell fight was a really good example of the difference between the old scoring and the new scoring. So under the old MMA scoring that was phased out in January 2016, Rothwell won that fight because he was the aggressor, he controlled the centre of the octagon, he landed the big power shots on Ivanov. Old scoring, Rothwell wins 100%. Under the new scoring, which came into effect in January 2016, I believe Ivanov won the fight, which is why I agreed with the decision, why I agreed with the judges, because in the new scoring, it does clearly state counter-striking is an effective strategy. Octagon control shouldn't mean anything. Aggression shouldn't mean anything. And Ivanov did outstrike Rothwell from the outside, so it was the correct decision under the new scoring. But it's really one of those things where some people are still scoring fights with the old scoring, and they need to change the way they think about things. The new scoring, you can find it online. If you Google MMA Junkie, ABC rules change, a PDF should come up on an MMA Junkie article where you can read the new scoring that came into effect in January 2016. And for a while, judges weren't really using it, but in the last 6 months, we've started to see judges start to consistently use this new scoring now, and the judging's just got way better. Teddy Bear 54 has asked, are these guys your elite members asking these questions? Some of them are, dude. Some of them are. Some of them are my elites. Caleb Ramirez has asked, Marlon Moraes first or second round? I would go with probably the first round, but either one. Don't really feel strongly either way. So 120 Naldo has asked, is Johnny Walker a fraud? I think Johnny Walker will get found out. I think Johnny Walker is one of these guys who just people think he's a lot better than he is. Every once in a while we see low-level fighters come into the UFC and all the stars align for them, and they get like a few highlight reel finishes early on and just things work out well for them. But then as they start to face a higher level of opponent, they get exposed. We see it with fighters like Paige Van Zandt, Sage Northcutt, and I think we'll see it with Johnny Walker as well. I think he'll get exposed. He's definitely not very good, but he's dangerous. But in terms of technique, it's only a matter of time before he gets dominated. Tony Ferguson has asked, is Michael Oleksiejczuk better than Rakic and Walker? I think Oleksiejczuk's better than Walker for sure, because Oleksiejczuk is quite heavy from top position. He's got great cardio. He's getting better from fight to fight. But Rakic looks decent. Rakic obviously trained at American Top Team full time as well, making big improvements from fight to fight. Decent grappler as well for a kickboxer. So not sure if Oleksiejczuk's better than Rakic, but I definitely think Oleksiejczuk's better than Walker. See if there's any more questions. Colin Bassett has asked, what makes you think Masvidal can knock out Askren after what we saw Askren take from Lawler? Askren is going to destroy him. I didn't say I think Masvidal will knock Askren out. I said Masvidal might dominate Askren, which is a completely different thing. Where do I start? You said Askren's going to destroy Masvidal. What I would say to you, mate, I won't spend too long on this breaking it down, but if you go and watch all of Askren's fights in one, and then you go and watch Masvidal's fight against Damian Maia, and if you really understand grappling, you will see that there's no way Askren's going to destroy him. Absolutely no way. It might be a close fight, but I definitely lean Masvidal. Go watch all of Askren's fights in one. They're all available on YouTube. Check out Masvidal against Maia. Very, very tough stylistic matchup for Askren. Thomas has asked, will you be betting Masvidal against Askren? I haven't looked at the odds yet. Let's see what the odds are. Where are we? Masvidal, Askren. Yes, at these odds, I will be betting Masvidal 100%. Definitely. Definitely. Those odds are fucking stupid. Come on, man. You serious? So again, this is an example, guys. This is very, very similar. Where are the odds gone? So the odds on this fight are really similar to what I've been talking about with just people not understanding fighting. So it's similar to like Curtis Melendra and Belal Muhammad. Just very inaccurate. The odds on this fight just show that people don't understand grappling, because they're way off. I understand Askren being the favourite, I guess, but having Masvidal such a huge underdog, people are just clueless, man. Clueless. And that is the reason why the more people that bet on MMA, the more money we'll be able to make, because the more dumb money that's betting on the sport, the more juicy opportunities like that we'll get. And Masvidal as a big underdog is just stupid. Get out of my face. Vanguard98 has asked, what is your website? Check it out, mate. MMABettingTips.com. Here we are. MMABettingTips.com. You can check us out. Sign up for a free account. There's people talking about fights all week in the chat room. You can catch me there 8 to 10 hours a day. Check us out. Automatic has asked, any value on taking? I feel like the line is too wide. You know what, man? For me, it's like poker. You got to know when to hold them and know when to fold them. I mean, for me, it's just, she's probably going to lose, so why bother? There are strong positions to put your money and weak positions, and Jessica I is not a strong position. Can she win? Sure, but I mean, the 3 bets we've got so far for this event are so solid. Why would you want to eat into potential profits? It's just not worth it. Patrick G has asked, you bet on and analyse boxing in your own time? I don't, mate. I don't really don't know anything about boxing or look into it at all. It's just not enough hours in the day, man. MMA takes up a lot of my time. Jason Elgi has asked, who is most likely to beat Khabib? In the lightweight division, I think the fighter most likely to beat Khabib is Gregor Gillespie. I hope we see that fight, because obviously Gillespie is a super high level NCAA Division 1 level wrestler. Hits very hard, very technical on the ground, against Khabib, who's a Sambo guy. So for me, Gillespie is the only guy in the lightweight division who can really potentially out-grapple Khabib with his NCAA Division 1 level pedigree. So I really am looking forward to potentially seeing how Gillespie does against Khabib if that fight happens. I think Gillespie's not really a fighter most casual fans will know that much about, but Gillespie's a very, very high level wrestler. Hasn't really fought anyone yet, which I hate it when people say that's the dumbest thing ever. But with his NCAA Division 1 level background, hits hard, great cardio, very tough. Could be a tricky fight for Khabib. Mitch Sansom has asked, how do you determine your unit bet? It really depends on my confidence level. So if I am ultra confident, and I don't think there's any way a fighter will lose, I'll go 5 units. If I think that there's if a fighter really should win, if it's unlikely they'll lose, I go 3 or 4 units, then obviously work my way down. So, for example, Mike Trezano versus Grant Dawson. I felt Trezano would win, but I knew there was a significant chance he would lose. So I only bet 1 unit. So it all depends on confidence level. Has asked, how do you see Colby and Usman matching up? I think Usman dominates Colby, mate. It's very interesting because Colby is an NCAA Division 1 level wrestler. Kamaru Usman's an NCAA Division 3 level wrestler. But I actually think Usman's MMA grappling is at a much higher level than Colby's. And also, even though Colby's relentless, what you'll see is in the 3rd or 4th round, Colby becomes sloppier with his technique in all of his fights. He wet blankets his opponents, puts a very high pace on them, but he does start to get a little bit sloppy when he gets tired, whereas Kamaru Usman still has razor sharp technique deep into the 5th round. It never slows down. So I definitely have Usman in that fight. Is that fight even announced? And if so, are there odds out? Because I would be very interested to know what the odds are on that fight. Do we have odds? Can't see any. Let me know, guys, if we got odds for that fight and if it's announced, because Usman will be a decent bet in that fight. Vicente Ortels has asked, what's up, mate? I love your live streams. Thanks a lot, mate. Thanks for watching. Just want to know if you've invested in physical gold and your opinion about long term of gold. Yes, I do. I have invested in gold. Got a bit of money in gold, not much. And it's a safe bet, isn't it? I mean, if you think about it, we're due a recession. During times of recession, gold tends to perform very well. So it's a pretty good time to buy gold when everything else is booming and gold is struggling. That's probably the right time to buy gold. So yes, do have a bit of money in gold. The 931st has asked, did you ever end up buying a new car? What do you go with? No, man, I'm saving for a new car. I can't buy it yet, but I'm going to get some in. I'm going to get some in at the end of the year. I'm not sure what it's going to be. Depends how much money I make between now and the end of the year. But I am... basically, the way that I work with my cars is obviously... I don't know how it works in other countries, but in the UK, everything kind of works in like 12-month cycles. So you have to when you buy a car, you have to tax and insure it, usually get a service, maybe put some new tires on or whatever. So during that 12-month cycle, it can be quite expensive if you've owned. So what I'm trying to say is, if you buy a car, you can keep it free. You probably have to get some stuff done to it and spend some money when you first buy it. And then, you spend little bits throughout the year. But then 12 months later down the line, you have to insure it again. You have to tax it again. You probably have to get it serviced again, do some maintenance on it. So I tend to keep cars for 1 or 2 years. And then a few months before that time, where I've got to spend all this money, servicing and shit again, I'll just get rid of it. So that cycle for me on the current car I've got completes this December. So I'll probably look to get a new car in November or December, and I don't know what I'm going to go for. It all depends on how much money I earn between now and then, but I fancy a C63 AMG S, a little bit outside my price range at the moment, but they do depreciate hard. So shopping for cars in the winter is quite a good time because it's Christmas, no one's spending money on cars, you can get some good deals. If I don't get a C63 AMG S, think about a newer M3 or an M4. I've got an M3 at the moment, but it's quite old and it's a pain in the ass. I've had loads of problems with it, so I can't wait to get rid of it. Can't wait to get rid of the car I've got at the moment. And I've spent a lot of money on maintenance. Absolute nightmare. In fact, if I had to... I'm going to be doing a video on my car soon. I'm going to start reviewing cars. I'm going to do a review of my car sometime over the next few months where I'll take it out, talk about the good things about it, the bad things about it, because it is an amazing car, the E92 M3, and it is an amazing car, and it's becoming affordable now. So definitely, if you're into performance cars, worth Worth picking one up. I'm just trying to find some questions while I rabbit on. Memlord has asked, ever considered teaching people about betting and crypto? I have, man, but well, not crypto, because I don't know enough about technical analysis myself yet. I'm learning myself, but it's hard for me. It's hard for me to. It's hard for me to find the time. Like, if I was to teach people about betting, I'd have to have a lot of time to dedicate to constructing the material, and I just don't get the time. Like, researching fights is a full-time job, so I would love to. It's just hard to find the time. So Prayesh Gautam has asked, how much are you betting on Calvin Cater? I'll be betting £3,000 on him. WrestleMan UK has asked, what was the new equipment you spent $5,000 on? I bought a DJI Mavic Pro 2 drone. I bought a DJI smart controller for the drone. I bought a Lumix GH5 digital SLR camera, although it's mirrorless, so technically it's not a DSLR. And I bought a Lumix Leica Notricon lens for the camera. And it also comes with a 12mm to 6mm lens for the SLR as well. And that's just the start. Producing a different kind of video for the channel. Got some big boy plans coming for some content for this channel. So yeah, drone came to like $5,500. Obviously you got the accessories, but it was a drone. It was a kit with loads of other accessories to the drone, like a bag, extra batteries, memory cards, extra propellers. The smart controller was like £600 as well. I think the camera was like 1,800 with a 12mm to 6mm lens. The Notricon lens was about 1,200. And the memory cards, because the Lumix GH5 camera is a 4K video camera, the fucking memory cards are out of control. The memory card for a 128GB memory card was £350. What an absolute joke. So yeah, that one hurt, but that's what I bought. So we're going to be bringing some different kinds of content to the channel in the future with our new equipment. Save Majibus as I love the channel, really enjoy the depth in content for the real fans. Thanks a lot, mate. Really appreciate you watching. You just asked, you seem very logical and smart. Thank you, mate. I really appreciate it. And did you go to college? Yes, I did. It's called university in the UK. But yeah, I did a degree in business studies, and I dropped out in year 2 because that's quite funny actually. So I basically worked out that when I was in uni, I never had to actually go into uni to pass the tests. I basically worked out, like, at the beginning of the course, they give you like a fucking a sheet of paper with like recommended reading for the course, right, with all these textbooks. And I basically worked out that you have like exams like twice a year, like at like Christmas time, and then in the spring/summer, like May, June time. And then you have like little bits of coursework throughout the year. I basically worked out that if you just fucking like read the books on this recommended reading list, you didn't actually have to go to the lectures. So yeah, I just used to buy the books. Like, say for example, there were like 2 books on, like, there's loads of different modules on the courses, right? So say there was a module on the business studies degree, like marketing, right? There would be like 1 or 2 marketing books on this recommended reading list. I would just read the 2 marketing books. Then when I had like coursework for marketing or do the exams, I would just do the exams after reading the books and like do well in them and not have to like go to any lectures. So I'd save loads of time, right? Would never go ever. I probably had like 10% attendance. Never used to go in. I was working a full-time job. I was like DJing and stuff as well. I loved my music back then. I was like playing poker, all sorts of shit, loving it. But then in year 3 or 2, I can't remember exactly what year it was, they brought in like this new level of work that you had to complete to get a grade at the end of the year, which was like group coursework, where you'd have to like partner with someone or a group of people and then like do like an essay together or a presentation together. And I was out, man. Fuck that. I didn't want to go into uni. Fuck that. I had too many other things to do. I was too busy playing poker, too busy working a full-time job. I was too busy having fun DJing. I used to make like little mixtapes and stuff. So I wasn't about that. So yeah, I dropped out. Just I never used to want to go into uni. And then they kind of like just introduced this new level of work, which meant you actually had to go in. So I was out there and I couldn't be bothered with it. Tiger747474 has asked, what would you recommend for people who can't put a lot of money on bets, like only having 100 to 150 US dollars total to bet on a card? That's a lot of money if you've got that much to bet on every card. That's like $400 a month, man. That's a lot of money. I would go to my previous example where I answered Andrea's question and just use compound interest to grind it up, man. That is the best way. Damon Blackburn's asked, if I were to set up a parlay, who would you throw in there? I've already answered this, but I'd go for high risk, high reward parlays. Super high risk. Go for 10 legs. Go for Chukagin, Lewis, Yaunenyan, Kovalkiewicz, Shevchenko, Yan, Keita, Suarez, Cerrone, Moraes. Very, very unlikely it wins, but if it does win, it's red panty night. Mark Ashton has said, you've mentioned live betting is your most profitable area for betting. What type of bets do you place? All my bets are always the same, man. I like to keep it simple, just straight win or loss. I don't like to get cute or complicate things. Just this dude to win or this dude to win. No more complicated than that. CRKBTS has asked, will you be researching Dana White's Contender Series fights? So, that's interesting. Last season of Dana White's Contender Series, we made a lot of money. Had some good bets for that card, which was very good. But I've noticed in the last 6 months, the landscape has kind of changed for betting on smaller promotions. So what you'd find sort of like a year or two ago would be bookies would get odds out for all the smaller promotions like PFL, Invicta, KSW, Cage Warriors. They would get them out like a day or two before the event took place. And throughout, the 2 days leading up to the event, more and more betting sites would add bets on these promotions. And even though liquidity wasn't that high, you could bet a little bit on all the different sites to, get a decent few hundred down. But I've noticed in the last 6 months, it's gone to total shit. And now for PFL, for example, on Thursday, the odds were only released like 6 hours before the event was scheduled to take place, which isn't enough to do research, and only 1 or 2 betting sites took bets on it, and the liquidity was mega low. I think the max bet limits on most of the PFL fighters was just like $100, which isn't worth bothering with. So whether I do research the Contender Series will depend on how early the odds come out, how many betting sites take bets on it, and what the liquidity looks like. I'm hoping it'll be decent, but betting on smaller promotions has definitely got worse in the last 6 months. Jack Lambert has asked, are you putting the same amount on the 3 fights? No, definitely not, because I am a hell of a lot more confident in Moraes and Keita than I am in Cerrone. Max Douglas has asked, if a unit is just a percentage of your bankroll, does that not go hand in hand with utilising compound interest? Yes, Max, it kind of does. But when you work with the 1 unit to 1%, if I bring the calculator back up, even though it lags the stream every time I do it. So say, for example, because we know Cerrone is a really risky bet, this event, if you are working on the 1% to 1 unit ratio, and we know Cerrone is the riskiest kind of bet we'll be placing, that would mean that if you had $200, divide that by 100 is $2. 1 unit for you would equal $2, which means if you bet one unit on Cerrone, if you only bet $2 on him, which would be one unit, you would then have the vast majority of your resource just lying around gathering dust. Like 198 units just sat there, 98% of your money doing absolutely nothing. Now, what do you think Warren Buffett would think about that strategy? Do you think he would think it would be a good idea if you had $100,000 to invest $5,000 in the S&P 500 and leave, the other $95,000 in your bank account to depreciate at 1 to 2% interest per year because cash is a depreciating asset? No, it's stupid. There's just no point in using units and having such a massive amount of your resources just sat on the shelf. Whereas you would be much better off committing a higher percentage of your bankroll, a higher percentage of your money. So if you only, for example, had one bet this weekend and you were only betting Cerrone, it would be reasonable to bet 10% of your money on him, which would be £20. $20, sorry, I'm British. $20. Now, that would still mean you've got a significant chunk of your money on the shelf not being used, but that's okay because we know Cerrone's a high risk bet, and we also know that that 10% is a significant amount of your overall cash. Now, some people would call that crazy. Some people would be like, how the fuck can you do that? 10 unit bet on Cerrone? You're crazy. But they're stupid. They're very, very stupid. They don't understand how to grow money and grow wealth and use compound interest to turn small amounts of money in a large amount of money. So would I recommend a 10 unit bet on Donald Cerrone under the traditional system? No, that would be crazy. But do I think committing 10% of your money to Donald Cerrone tonight, if you've only got 10% of your money at risk and a massive chunk of your bankroll left on the table, I think that's bloody smart. That's how compound interest works. Now, of course, it gets a little bit fucked up because, say, for example, you commit 10% of your money on Cerrone this week and he loses. Next week, you might feel super confident in Moicano. Would you want to commit 10% to him? It's complicated because you probably feel a lot more confident Moicano beats Korean Zombie than you do Cerrone beats Ferguson. Would it be appropriate to commit 20% of your money on Moicano if you only have one bet? It really comes with experience, guys. It really comes with... There's no hard and fast rule. I've been doing this a long time. This is what works for me. You need to use a lot of judgment, a lot of experience. As a general rule, the only advice I can give you is that you are really missing out on a lot of opportunities by leaving a big chunk of money on the table. You want to be using as much of your money as you can to grow your money as possible from week to week. And yeah, it's complicated. I'm not going to lie, it's complicated. It's one of the reasons why I don't like talking about this stuff so much, because I use so much of my own judgment and experience. And if you don't really have a strong understanding of how to interpret the information I'm trying to give you, you could get wrecked. So, like I say, if you're a long-term loser, you will get destroyed using this strategy very, very fast. But if you maintain a high win rate and you consistently win, you will crush it and make a lot of money with this strategy. Unfortunately, the vast majority of people that do bet on MMA get destroyed, so it is probably smarter to use the 1% to 1 unit rule. But for me, the compound interest strategy is what works for me. WrestleMan UK has asked thoughts on Nate Diaz being a slight underdog to Pettis. I think he's a good bet. Yeah, I agree, man. I think Diaz is a very good bet against Pettis. I think Pettis is really going to struggle with Diaz's pressure. Firmbird has asked, which fighter do you think will get the most takedowns tonight? We're making bets in my house. Curious on your opinion. Nice one, dude. Which fighter will get the most takedowns? So that fight is off the table. That fight is off the table. That fight's off the table. That fight's off the table. Tatiana Suarez. Oh, maybe. I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe not. Maybe not, because Suarez will only need to land one takedown, and then Ansarov can pop right back up. Sorry, that's a stupid thing to say. And Suarez can get a takedown, but Ansarov won't be able to pop back up. So Suarez won't need to get that many takedowns because Ansarov's not very good at working her way back to her feet. It's a good question. I would go for Bevon Lewis. Because even though he never uses his wrestling, if he actually does choose to use his wrestling tonight, Darren Stewart's got absolutely no takedown defense, so he should be able to get takedowns easily. But at the same time, Stewart is very good at popping back up to his feet, which means Lewis would have to repeatedly take him down. So I would go for Bevon Lewis, although it's a tricky one. Here's a tricky one. BH has asked, do you think Cerrone's quick turnaround will be a factor? I do, mate. I do think it will be a factor. I think it's a good thing that Cerrone is taking this fight on relatively short notice. He performs better when he performs on short notice. He's quite open about the fact that he battles with anxiety before fights, and he said that the less time he has to think about a fight, the better he performs. So I think it's a good thing that he's only taking this fight on about 3 weeks' notice. Lee Dosis has asked, okay, so you've become the Cardiff manager and you've also been given £300 million. Who would you bring Cardiff City to glory? Who would you bring in to take Cardiff City to glory? God, man. You know what? Players are so expensive these days. 300 million wouldn't buy you much, would it? That's a great question. I'd have to have a think about that. It's a tough one, man. Although we should definitely be able to keep a team up when you spend 300 million. Although Fulham spent 100 million and got wrecked. So who the fuck knows? That's a big question. Spend about 3 hours answering that. I would love to answer that question as well, man. I wish I could, but it's a big question. Just looking for some more questions. Seeing if we got more questions. So NJ North has said you're more of an investor than a gambler. That's interesting, man. I would recommend checking out a book by Ray Dalio called Principles of Life and Work. And in that book, Ray Dalio talks about investing like it's betting. So check that book out, man. Check it out. See if we got any more questions. So Fernbird has asked, how high of a ceiling do you project for Michel Pereira? It's tough, man. It is really tough. We haven't seen much of him. He looked very, very bad before he came into the UFC. But then in his debut against Danny Roberts, he looked really sharp, really explosive, really fast. So, maybe he's turned a corner. And I know he was jumping around in all different kinds of weight classes outside the UFC. So maybe he's at his best at welterweight. So I'm not sure. We'll have to see. Too early to tell. I think I've answered automatic about Jessica I. Prajesh Gautam has asked how much you betting on Keita. I'm betting £3,000 on Keita. Tom Moley has asked how big do you think Masvidal can climb the underdog? Joe Rogan's hype machine Askren will affect it a lot. That's a really good point, man. You know what? It's difficult to say because when I see the odds at the moment on Masvidal, where are we? So when I see these odds at 2.70, I instantly want to go and bet Masvidal. I can't because liquidity is too low. But if liquidity was higher, I would go and bet Masvidal straight away. Because in my head, those odds are so crazy. I just assume that they have to decline because anyone with a brain would know that Masvidal's an amazing bet. But I felt the same so many times this year. Belal Muhammad again was the best example I can think of, where he opened at 1.60. I bet him straight away because I expected him to get bet down to 1.36, only to see his odds improve up close to even money because of all the dumb money that bets on the sport. So I don't know, man. I mean, Masvidal's an amazing bet at these odds, but maybe the dumb public, like you say, they will drink the Kool-Aid from Joe Rogan and think Askren dominates. Who knows? It's tough to say. Bob Bobson has asked, what's the early opinion on the odds for Marlon Vera versus O'Malley? Have we got odds for that yet? Are they out? Here they are, man. Sean O'Malley, 1.65. Marlon Vera, 2.25. How do I see that playing out then? I'm not sure, man. I'm not sure. I am very high on O'Malley, but Vera is no joke. I need to research that one. I wouldn't feel comfortable giving a strong opinion out on that fight. Just because both guys are so technical in their own ways that I'd have to see if I could spot any vulnerabilities in what they do. Oh no, I've lost my place again. Let me see if I can find where I was. Here we go, I'm back. JJ said, big thank you for doing this. Thanks a lot, mate. I appreciate it. JJ's another one of my elite members, man. Shout out to you, mate. And JJ comments all the time. I really appreciate it, dude. Hopefully we can crush it tonight, mate. We're about an hour away from the start of the UFC. We'll keep going. I want to answer everyone. I want to get through all these questions. Oh, Jesus. So Sherman Chandler has said some books have opened odds on Usman versus Covington, and Usman is a minus 400 favourite, which I believe is about 1.20. 1.25, Jesus, yeah. Oh, that's annoying. I was hoping that the bookies would screw that one up. But that's another fight where, I see Usman as a 1.25 favourite and I can't bet him. But then, the casual betting public don't understand the intricacies of grappling. They will see Covington as a big underdog. They will bet Covington as a big underdog, which will improve the odds on Usman. So maybe come fight time, we'll be able to bet Usman at odds of 1.40, 1.50, minus 250 to minus 200. Who knows? Jake Sidoli has asked, what car am I thinking of getting? I want the C63 AMG S, but I think it's going to be a bit outside of my price range unless I really have an amazing run between now and the end of the year. It's also a bit tricky for me this year because I'm due to pay taxes in January, so obviously I'm going to have to hold back some money for that. And if I'm planning to buy a new car in November, December, it's going to be an expensive time of the year for me with taxes, car and Christmas. So if I can't afford an AMG S, C63 AMG S, I will either get an M4 or an M3. But obviously a newer M3 than what I've got now. And it will really just depend on how much money I've got at the time. I'll definitely get a minimum of an M3 or an M4, I would imagine. I don't know which one though. To be honest, I don't lean either way towards an M3 or an M4. It's really just going to depend on the spec. I want competition pack. I want low mileage. And there's also some pretty cool colours out there. Like they do a Hulk green, a sunshine yellow, which you don't see many of them around. So it all depends on what's available at the time, I suppose. See if we got any more questions. Firmbird has asked, can you make a video or live bet you made on a previous event, and what were the deciding factors for placing a live bet? That is something I can't do, mate, only because live betting is my bread and butter, man, and betting sites are always sharpening up. And it's one of those things where it's kind of like, I think if betting sites knew what I did, they would, they could make life difficult for me. So I always keep my live betting stuff quite private and secret, just because Coca-Cola don't reveal their secret ingredient to Pepsi. Do you know what I'm saying? So the live betting stuff I always keep quite secret because it's my cash cow. If I wasn't able to make money from live betting, life would be a lot harder than it is now. So I always try and keep that under wraps. Not that I'm trying to be like, not that I'm trying to be a dick or anything, but because you know, betting on anything, investing in anything is a market. The more people trying to do the same thing, the harder it becomes. So, for example, you know, when everyone wants to buy a crypto, the price goes up and becomes harder for you to buy. So, say for example, you had a piece of knowledge, right? And you knew that in 5 years' time, if you absolutely knew, you had some information that in 5 years' time, Bitcoin was going to be worth $10 million, right? But within that 5 years, you wanted to try and accumulate as much Bitcoin as you could get, so that when the price explodes in 5 years' time, you're sat on a load of Bitcoin, you can make a load of money, right? The more people you tell that information to, the more people out there that are going to be trying to also buy Bitcoin, which will push the price up and make it more difficult for you to accumulate it, yeah? It's exactly the same with live betting. The more people that know about what I do, the less profitable it becomes, because the more people placing the same kind of bets at the same time, the faster the odds become suspended and crash. So I like to keep the live betting stuff a bit more private, because otherwise I might go out of business. And I don't want that to happen because I love what I do. So yeah, I have to keep it under wraps. WrestleMan UK has asked, how do you stop yourself from being greedy when betting? Because I hate losing, man. I really hate losing. Like, I said, like, I'd spend 40 to 50 hours a week researching these fights, and I know how difficult it is to make a profit betting on MMA. So I'm not greedy, because I know that if I haven't put an enormous amount of work into the bets I place, I'm probably going to lose. So I just don't place them anyway. I only place bets that I put a lot of work in. This is why I do get annoyed with people when someone will be like, "Oh, you don't know what you're talking about. Ferguson will knock Cerrone out," and they've literally just opened their phone up and just fucking typed it on their phone with no thought. What they don't realize is I've like agonized over that fight for like 4 or 5 hours and considered like every possibility and weighed everything up and really put a lot of thought into it. It really comes with not being greedy. Really comes from knowing that if you don't work your ass off, you're probably going to get wrecked, which is the reason why I'm taking crypto so seriously. It's the reason why I've bought this algorithm. It's the reason why I'm doing this trading course, because I know if I don't learn how to use the algorithm, if I don't learn how to really become an expert trader when I am trading, I'm going to get crushed. So I fucking better put the work in. Michelle Rajkovaka has said, you told someone earlier to watch the Jorge Masvidal versus Damian Maia fight in regards to the Ben Askren versus Jorge Masvidal fight. I just watched the fight. George got taken down so many times, Ben Askren wins. You don't understand what you're seeing, my friend. I did say to go and watch Ben Askren's fights in one, and you will see that the harder you make Ben Askren work for takedowns, the sloppier he becomes normally through the second midway point of the in the second round. And what you'll also notice about the Damian Maia fight is that Damian Maia was able to maintain back control on Masvidal for a very long period of time, which is something that Askren can't do. Doesn't have that skill in his locker. Please go watch Ben Askren's fights in one, and you will see. You probably won't see weaknesses in his technique because it sounds like you don't really understand grappling that well. But trust me, man, Askren's going to have a tough time taking Masvidal down and holding him down. If you really understand the positions and what's going on, you will see big holes in Askren's skill set that Masvidal can exploit. And I mean, trying to compare Damian Maia to Askren is just crazy. Like, I don't even know what to say to you, man. Don't even know what to say. The devil is in the detail. So Angry Posh Gamer has asked, how do I stop gambling? Serious question. Man, what I would do, genuinely, mate, what I would do is just know if you're just gambling on anything, know that you're probably going to lose. And if that's not your objective, go do something else. Like, if you want to make money in anything, you get out what you put in. You know what I mean? You really have to work hard. You get out what you put in. If you're not putting a lot of work and a lot of thought and a lot of time into gambling, you're going to get wrecked. And that goes for anything. And if you're not prepared to put that work in, I would just say just walk away and try and do something else. There's so many other things you could do. Just try and become an expert in something, man. Gambling's brutal. I spend a lot of time doing research and it's really hard. It's really, really hard. There's no way you could make money gambling if you half-ass it. So if you're not literally dedicated full-time to it, just pass, man. Just go find someone else to do. Just understand you will lose. Like, there's no happy endings. That's all I would say. The Wombat 1790 has asked, what is my current car? I've got an E92 M3, which I'll be doing a review on the channel soon. It's going to kind of like be the first of some car review videos that I want to do. So I'm going to review my own car before I sell it. I'm like going to sell it in like October, November to get the money to buy a new car. And before then, I will do a review video on the channel so that if anyone's thinking of buying that car, you can learn a bit about it. Because the reason why I want to do car videos is like when you look at most of the car videos on YouTube, most of the time it's people that have like picked a car up from a dealership and they only have it for a few days or weeks, and they'll review it based on their experience having it for a few days or weeks. But you know that's not a full story. So I want to like review cars that I've owned for a while, like 6 months or a year, to give you kind of like an impression of what it is actually like to own that car for any period of time. Because you know what it's like when you first get a car, you love it. Like, it's amazing. It's like a new girl. It's like a new girlfriend. They're amazing. They can do no wrong. They're beautiful. They're great. They look great. Even in the mornings, they look amazing. They smell good. They work good. They never break down. And then, you know, the longer you own them, you see, the longer you're with a girl, the longer you have a car, you start to see their true colours. So those are the kind of reviews I want to put out. And one of those will be coming soon. Well, I say soon, sometime in the next few months. Mark Ashton has asked, has said, you mentioned you put £3,000 on Cater. Did you have to use multiple betting sites? Yes, I did. I split that 3,000 up over 6 different websites. 6, not 4, 6. Uh, 120 Naldo has asked, Chris, I really think Lubov is going to KO Paulie Malignaggi stiff. Do you recommend a max bet on him? No, probably not, man. I don't know. I think Lubov's going to do a lot better than a lot of people think, just because he's just one hard motherfucker. and he's got a great chin. But I don't know, man. I don't know. Don't know. So Shoujo has asked, how much have you made in total this year so far from MMA betting? So I can actually calculate it. If we get my calculator out, I know exactly what I've made. So it was 4,100 on one. It was 2,500 on another. It was, what else have I done? 500 on another. 200 on another. Let me just work through what I've got. 500 on another. What else have I got? 500. I'm trying to go through all the... I have to start again from scratch. I've just fucking forgotten about the accounts. Right, so let's go through it again. So it's 4, 5 on one. I know which account that was in my head. I've got 2,000 on another. I know what account that was. I've got 200 on another. Working them through. I'm trying to visualize. Got 500 on another. Bang. I don't know what that one is. Got 500 on another. I know what one that one was. And then we've got, oh, what else was there? I know I'm missing one. There was one on, I opened that up. There's that there. And then we've got, trying to remember. And then there was, on that one that was shut down. So that was 7. There's got to be more. I've had more shut down than that. I think it's more than that, but I can't remember. I think it's about 12,000 so far, but that's from accounts that have been limited. There's still a lot that's like tied up in accounts, so that is like tax free in my bank account. There are like other sites where haven't been shut down yet, and that money's tied up. Now, what you've actually seen, you've seen me put in some small numbers there, like 200 on some sites, 500 on some sites, and that is just because you get shut down very, 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 very quickly on some sites. So literally, like, you could place one bet and get shut down straight away. So it's 12,000 so far in 5 months. So if we have a look at that, that would be 12,000 divided by 5. So around 2,500 a month. And then also on top of that, I've still got all my money in betting accounts in there. I've currently got about 6 betting sites that I've got money in. So yeah, not loads, but like I say, it's very difficult to make big money from MMA, because as soon as you start to, go up and make a little bit of cash, you just get limited and shut down, which is very, very, very frustrating. But that is the way it goes. 12,000 in 5 months, not bad at all. And remember, there was only one event in January, so pretty much, if we take January out the picture, that would be 12,000 in 4 months. So there's only one event, which would be 3,000 a month. Not bad. Can't complain. Tax-free dollars. Not going to complain about that. Right. What else have we got? John Galt has asked, why not move to Las Vegas? You won't have to worry about betting limits. I remember back in the mid-1990s, betting 7,700 on Prince Hamed versus McCulloch, didn't even move the line. I don't want to move to Vegas, man. I don't want. What about my friends and family and stuff, dude? That's not cool. What about my parents? What about my son's school? All that shit. Don't want to move to Vegas. Jake Collinson's asked, do you stay up and watch the UFC? Yes, I do. Jake Collinson's asked, what's my best bet for UFC 238? Calvin Kattar. Prajesh Gautam's asked, do you prefer single or accumulator? Definitely single. I never bet accumulators. Cam has asked, backtracking about what you said about Askren versus Masvidal. Did you bet on Askren versus Lawler, and what were your thoughts on the stoppage? I didn't bet on it, no. And I think the stoppage was early, but it was a tough position for Herb Dean to be in. You know, it was a really tough one. Really, really tough one. Really, really tough. Difficult position for him to be in. So Sean Holmes has asked, why do you have to pay taxes? Everyone has to pay taxes, man. I don't obviously pay taxes on gambling income, but do have other incomes. I have my website, crypto, you know, other little things I do here and there. JLess456 has said, do you do any DraftKings? I do, man. I play DraftKings every event. Every single event. Yeah, I do. Raffaello6198 has asked, does Masvidal have good chances of winning against Askren, and why? Yeah, he does have a good chance. I think that Askren's technique becomes a lot sloppier as the fight goes on, and I think Masvidal will eventually be able to turn him into a panic wrestler and box his face off. JLess has asked, ever thought of making DraftKings specific vids? No, because if everyone puts the same like fighters in their DraftKings team, and that team wins, everyone's going to end up sharing the prize pool. So it's really hard to do DraftKings. Videos and give out good advice, because like if everyone's jumping on the same fighters, no one makes money. So I think that's it for the questions, guys. Derek Hunter's asked, what are your bets today? I've got Keita, Moicano, and Cerrone. So I think that is going to be it for the video, guys. And then we've got about 40 minutes before the fight start. Rizzler7's asked, would you consider doing a poker tournament with your viewers and members? Yeah, that would be fun. That would be super fun. That would be fun. Definitely. So the Iceberg that sent the Titanic has said, who have you got, Prime Ngannou or Lesnar? So we will Prime Lesnar or Prime Ngannou. I think Lesnar's takedown entries were always a little bit sloppy, and Ngannou is quite difficult to take down early in a fight, so Ngannou would have a great chance of winning that. But I think that is going to be it for tonight, guys. So take care. I'm off to get ready for this. I am off to get this DraftKings team sorted for tonight. But take care, guys. Thanks for watching. I should be back on Monday or actually probably Tuesday with the first video for UFC on ESPN Plus 12. Let me know in the comments what fight you want me to cover in part 1. I will be covering Moicano versus Korean Zombie. I will be covering Yoda versus Kondo, but let me know what third fight you want me to cover, and the one that gets the most comments over the weekend, I'll be the one that I do. So nice one, guys. Take care. I think that's it for all the questions. Good luck for tonight. Hope you all make money. Take care. I will speak to you soon.